Chapter 2547. Deity, have you ever thought about why Yi Shui insisted on staying on the first island? Is it really because she's not familiar with the place and is afraid of being alone? Huolian walked behind Qin Feiyong and asked as she looked at Yi Shui's back. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Don't you realize that Yi Shui seems to rely on you too much? Fire Lotus said. Really? Qin Feiyong scratched his head. He really didn't realize it. Your EQ is terrifyingly low. I finally understand why you and the mermaid princess spent so much time together. Looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson when I'm free. Fire Lotus shook her head. You're still single and you still want to teach me a lesson? Girl, let's talk about it after you get married. Qin Feiyong laughed. Deity. Fire Lotus's cheeks flushed red as she stomped her feet angrily. If the big shots of the Ninth Heaven Palace saw this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. The palace lord of the Ninth Heaven Palace was stomping her feet like a little girl. Where was her dignity? All right, let's stop joking. Tell me, should I go to the Nether King's hell? Or not? Qin Feiyong waved his hand and looked at Fire Lotus seriously. Logically speaking, you shouldn't go. After all, this is a plot against you. But I know that you won't play by the rules. So, you don't have to ask me. Fire Lotus thought for a while and shook her head. I didn't expect you to know me so well. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. If I don't know you well, wouldn't I have wasted all these years by your side? Fire Lotus rolled her eyes and said. But you really have to think about this. Qin Feiyong nodded. He couldn't use his divine artifact or the 6-word divine art. Even Fire Lotus and the others couldn't help. It would be a headache if they were to face off against the dragons. Unless, oh right. He would use the identity of Li Boer to enter the hell of the Nether King. This way, not only would he not encounter any danger, Yi Zhong and the dragons would even protect him. However, how could he convince Yi Zhong to agree to let him enter the hell of the King of Hell? Forget it. He would think about these questions after the hell of the Netherworld King opened. The most important thing right now was to quickly cultivate. After all, at that time all of his trump cards would be useless. Therefore, the most important thing now was to increase his strength. He also needed to raise the level of the various deity arts. Not to mention other things, he needed to at least have some ability to protect himself. Enjoying a battle is the fastest way to improve a divine art, Qin Feiyong muttered. He turned to look at Fire Lotus and smiled. From now on, you'll be my sparring partner. Feel free to beat me up. Beat you up? Fire Lotus was taken aback. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Fire Lotus raised the corner of her mouth and smiled. Then I won't be polite. Qin Feiyong looked at her in a daze. He could not help but have an uneasy premonition in his heart. Whoosh! Immediately after, the two disappeared and appeared in the Black Tortoise world. East. In a certain restaurant, Hui sat at a table in the main hall. He was drinking wine while admiring the graceful dancers on the stage in the middle. He was extremely satisfied. Life should be like this. Play when you should, play when you should. Enjoy when you should. Unlike this Qin Feiyong who only knows how to cultivate all day. What's the point of working himself to death? He chuckled inwardly. Tap tap. Not long after, a young man wearing a golden robe entered the restaurant and walked to the opposite side of Hui. You're back so soon? Hui was taken aback. That's right. This young man was the 5-clawed golden dragon. Isn't it just investigating the whereabouts of Wu Baichuan? How difficult can it be? The 5-clawed golden dragon rolled his eyes at Hui. Looking at the few wine jars on the table, he frowned and said, You've been drinking here all this time? Hui grinned. Are you here to help or to eat, drink and have fun? The 5-clawed golden dragon was very dissatisfied. Hui said, Of course I'm here to help and have some fun while I'm at it. The 5-clawed golden dragon looked at him with disdain. He picked up a wine jar and gulped it down. Look, the two of us are really like-minded. I don't know why you want to follow that idiot Qin Feiyong. You don't drink and don't know how to be carefree. You only know how to cultivate all day. Why don't you think about it again and follow me? I still have a lot of immortal wine here. Hui looked at the 5-clawed golden dragon. Immortal wine. The 5-clawed golden dragon's eyes lit up. All these years in the Black Tortoise world, He had already tasted the taste of immortal wine from Hawaii. It was a delightful experience. As long as you follow me, I guarantee that you'll have an endless supply of good wine. Hawaii continued to tempt him. Last time I heard you say that this immortal wine was obtained from a place called Heaven Immortal Tower in the Eastern Tomb? The five-clawed golden dragon asked. Yes. Hawaii nodded. Then why should I follow you? When the time comes, I'll go to the Heaven Immortal Tower and get a few hundred jars. The five-clawed golden dragon sneered. Then tell me, how are you going to get there? Hawaii looked at him playfully. With my current relationship with young master, would he refuse to let me borrow his space-time gate? The five-clawed golden dragon said indifferently. Hawaii's face darkened. Even if you borrow the space-time gate and go to the Heaven Immortal Tower, Miss Immortal might not give it to you. With money, are you afraid that you can't buy it? The five-clawed golden dragon had a look of disdain. You're still too naive. This is really not a problem that can be solved with money. Only when you reach a certain level of relationship will Miss Immortal sell it. Hawaii smiled proudly. The five-clawed golden dragon frowned. Think about it carefully. Only by following me will you have the chance to eat good food and drink good wine. And if you follow Qin Feiyang, sooner or later you'll become like him, a block of wood. Then how boring would your life be? Let's not talk about it anymore. Qin Feiyang has a mission. I have to return to the north. You should also prepare to make a trip to the south to investigate the background of that young lord. Hawaii transmitted his voice. In that case, young master is still worried about that young lord in the south? The five-clawed golden dragon thought. You understand Qin Feiyang's character? Everything has to be done without any mistakes. It's just that it's hard for us to run errands. Hawaii shook his head. After drinking the last mouthful of wine, he said, Remember to pay the bill. After saying that, he got up and walked outside. Why should I pay the bill while you drink? The five-clawed golden dragon glared at him angrily. We're family, why are you so calculative? At most, you can go back and ask Qin Feiyang for reimbursement in the future. Hawaii waved his hand without looking back. The five-clawed golden dragon couldn't help but feel angry. Why was he acting like a scoundrel? And these words were said through voice transmission, so no one in the restaurant heard it. North Region. Treasure Pavilion. A black-haired young man in his 20s slowly walked into the treasure pavilion. Greetings, young master. Is there anything I can do for you? A staff member greeted him with a very good attitude. Take this young master to see your steward. The black-haired young man looked at the staff member with his nose in the air and said, May I ask if young master has made an appointment in advance? The staff member asked cautiously. What the hell? A small steward needs to make an appointment in advance. The black-haired young man raised his eyebrows and his voice was particularly loud. The people around immediately looked at him. Which young master was this? How could he be so arrogant? The staff member was stunned and said, I'm sorry, I can't take you to see the steward without an appointment. Is that so? What if I insist on seeing him today? The black-haired young man said. The staff member could not help but frown and said, Are you here to pick a fight? Yes, I'm here to pick a fight. If you don't want to be implicated, quickly step aside. Damn fat pig, get out here. The black-haired young man scanned the treasure pavilion and roared. Damn fat pig? Is this person crazy? Who in Holy Dragon City doesn't know that the steward of the treasure pavilion hates people calling him a fat pig the most? Everyone looked at each other. How bold of him. The staff member was also angry and shouted, Men, throw him out. Chapter 2548. Inside the room. The manager closed the door and looked at the young man in black with a gloomy expression. Who are you to Ren Xiaolan? You don't have to know who I am to her. As the manager of the treasure pavilion, how can you be so narrow-minded? What right does someone like you have to be in charge of the treasure pavilion? The young man in black sat on the chair and looked at the manager with a mocking expression. Don't be presumptuous. Ren Xiaolan was expelled from the treasure pavilion because she stole from the treasure pavilion. Speaking of which, she should be thanking me. That's because our treasure pavilion can't tolerate embezzlement. If I hadn't shown mercy, do you think she would have just been expelled from the treasure pavilion? Let me tell you, according to the treasure pavilion's rules, She should be executed on the spot. The manager sneered. Haha, the young man in black laughed and said, "You keep saying that she stole from the treasure pavilion. Then let me ask you, did you find any stolen goods on her? Would you keep the stolen goods with you after stealing? If it were anyone else, they would have moved the stolen goods away immediately. Ren Xiaolan has already gotten a great deal this time. Not only did she keep her life, but she also swallowed a legendary artifact. Go back and tell her not to be greedy. Otherwise, the treasure pavilion won't let her off so easily," the manager said. Haha, you can still be so righteous after framing someone. I really admire you. The young man in black laughed. Framing someone? You need evidence to say that. Also, I have reason to suspect that you are her accomplice. You were the one who moved the lost legendary artifact away. The manager looked at the young man in black coldly. The young man in black was stunned. Not only did he frame Ren Xiaolan, but he also framed him. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? How could the chief pavilion master let such a person manage the treasure pavilion without worry? Wasn't he afraid that the treasure pavilion would be dragged into the fire pit by this person? I'll let bygones be bygones, but if you dare to continue looking for trouble, then don't blame the treasure pavilion for being rude. Please, the manager of the treasure pavilion said expressionlessly as he pointed at the door. You're still letting bygones be bygones? The black-clothed youth was truly speechless. He had finally seen what a truly despicable person was. A wisp of killing intent flashed in the manager's eyes when he saw the black-clothed young man sitting there motionlessly. He shouted, "Do you want me to make a move? Do it." The black-robed youth muttered as he sized up the manager of the treasure pavilion. This person's cultivation was not weak. Half-step imperishable realm. After all, it was the Holy Dragon City's treasure pavilion. The Holy Dragon City was one of the 3 most powerful cities in the north. If one's cultivation was weak, how could they solve their daily problems? Therefore, they definitely needed a powerhouse to oversee the situation. But if he thought that a half-step imperishable could be arrogant in front of him, then he was gravely mistaken. The treasure pavilion has lost a legendary divine artifact. This is definitely true. But Ren Xiaolan didn't take it, so who has this artifact? Damn fat pig, are you interested in my analysis? The black-clothed youth looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion mockingly. You're courting death. The manager of the treasure pavilion didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. A wisp of pressure spread out. The black-clothed youth lay on the chair and tapped his fingers on the armrest. He smiled and said, I advise you to keep your arrogance to yourself. Impudent. The manager of the treasure pavilion was furious. Who's the impudent one? The black-clothed youth's eyes turned cold. He suddenly stood up and a terrifying aura exploded. The entire treasure pavilion began to shake violently. What's going on? This aura, it seems to be an ultimate powerhouse. The people outside immediately panicked and looked at the closed door. The aura came from inside the room. Could it be that arrogant black-clothed youth from before? At this moment, the manager of the treasure pavilion also stared at the black-clothed youth in shock and disbelief. This seemingly unremarkable youth was actually an initial stage imperishable realm cultivator. How was this possible? Ren Xiaolan was just an ordinary person. How could she know such a terrifying ultimate powerhouse? Answer me, who's the impudent one? The black-clothed youth stared at the manager of the treasure pavilion, his eyes cold. Sorry. The manager of the treasure pavilion trembled and hurriedly spoke. He couldn't even speak clearly. The black-clothed youth said, Can you listen to my analysis quietly now? Yes. The manager of the treasure pavilion nodded repeatedly. The black-clothed youth smiled in satisfaction and retracted his aura. He returned to his chair and said with a smile, According to my investigation, Ren Xiaolan was framed by Yu Dong. But at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Lord Steward, are you all right? A few guards stood outside the door, their faces filled with anxiety. The black-clothed youth immediately raised his eyebrows and walked toward the door unkindly. I'm fine. Go do your own thing. Seeing this, the manager hurriedly shouted at the guards outside the door. Yes. The guards looked at each other suspiciously. Then they respectfully responded and turned to leave. The black-clothed youth's expression eased. He looked at the manager and continued, "If Ren Xiaolan was really framed by you, then this lost legendary artifact must be in your hands." The manager's pupils shrank, and he said angrily, "Don't slander me. Whether it's slander or not, we'll know later. If it was Ren Xiaolan who did it, then as you said, she would have moved this artifact away at the first opportunity. Because she has no status and no strength, she can't resist a body search. But you're different. As the manager of the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City, your status and power far surpass Ren Xiaolan. Other than the chief pavilion master, no one has the right and no one dares to search you. Moreover, because you're the manager of the treasure pavilion, even if the staff suspect you, they won't dare to tell the chief pavilion master. After all, they're all afraid of your revenge. Moreover, they're just ordinary staff and can't contact the chief pavilion master directly. So you don't have to worry about being exposed at all. Taking a step back, even if someone finds the chief pavilion master to report you, you have plenty of reasons to clear your name. Therefore, I'm guessing that this lost legendary artifact should still be with you." The black-clothed youth laughed. "Haha, that sounds reasonable. Unfortunately, this is only your side of the story." The manager of the treasure pavilion sneered. The black-clothed youth asked, "Then do you dare to give me your interspatial ring?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Without another word, the manager of the treasure pavilion took off his interspatial ring and threw it to the black-clothed youth. "So straightforward?" The black-clothed youth caught the interspatial ring and looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion in shock. Could he be wrong? Had the manager of the treasure pavilion hidden this artifact? Don't waste time. Investigate. The manager of the treasure pavilion sat opposite the black-clothed youth with a cold smile. The black-clothed youth's eyes flickered. All of a sudden, a glint flashed across his eyes as he stood up abruptly and dashed to the manager of the treasure pavilion, grabbing him by the neck. "What are you doing?" The manager stared at him in shock and anger. The black-clothed youth remained silent and sent his divine will into the manager's body. At this moment, the manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but panic. The black-clothed youth also noticed this and was increasingly convinced that his guess was correct. This person had hidden the legendary divine weapon in his sea of chi or sea of consciousness. First of all, he checked the manager of the treasure pavilion's consciousness. There was nothing in it. However, the black-clothed youth's eyes lit up when he checked the manager's chi sea. Immediately after, a rectangular wooden box appeared. It was about a foot long and looked rather ordinary. "Give it to me," the manager of the treasure pavilion said angrily. The black-clothed youth grabbed the wooden box and retreated a few steps, looking at the manager mockingly. Chapter 2549. What's this? The black-robed young man threw away the broken wooden box and smiled at the manager of the treasure pavilion with the interspatial ring. "Give it back to me," the manager of the treasure pavilion roared. "Don't tell me that it contains your father's belongings as well?" The black-robed young man looked at him playfully. The manager of the treasure pavilion was anxious. The black-robed young man released his spirit consciousness and erased the blood contract on the interspatial ring. He then dripped his blood to claim ownership of the ring and checked it. Damn! He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it, but when he did, he was shocked. Not only did the interspatial ring contain a large number of soul stones, elixirs, divine weapons, divine arts, and hundreds of interspatial bags. The black-robed young man released his spirit consciousness and checked them one by one. The hundreds of interspatial bags were filled with soul stones and divine crystals. Divine crystals aside, there were soul stones. There were at least hundreds of billions. This was a frightening number. At the same time, the round body of the manager collapsed powerlessly and his face was filled with fear. The spirit tablet in his hands fell to the ground as well. Soon, the black-robed young man took out dozens of long metal boxes. Each metal box was at least a meter long. The black-robed young man glanced at the manager of the treasure pavilion and opened all the metal boxes. Immediately, divine weapons appeared one after another. There were sabers, spears, clubs, and rods. After checking, the black-robed young man discovered that there were 5 legendary divine weapons, and the rest were peak divine weapons. Not simple. A mere manager actually hid such a large amount of treasures? The black-robed young man looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion in shock. The manager of the treasure pavilion looked up at the black-robed young man with unprecedented panic in his eyes. I don't think anyone would believe that this is your father's belongings. The black-robed young man waved his hand and put away all the metal boxes with a playful smile. The manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned. However, I have to admit that you're indeed smart to use your father's spirit tablet as a cover. I believe that even the chief pavilion master would not expect such a large amount of treasures to be hidden under the spirit tablet. However, what do you think will happen if I tell your chief pavilion master about this? The black-robed young man chuckled. Sir, please have mercy. Please. I'll do whatever you want me to do. The manager of the treasure pavilion shuddered and hurriedly knelt in front of the black-clothed young man and begged. Are you admitting it? The black-clothed youth said with a smile. Yes. I framed Ren Xiaolan. The lost legendary artifact is one of the 5 legendary artifacts. The manager of the treasure pavilion nodded. Just as Li Bu Er expected. As the manager of the treasure pavilion, you actually framed your subordinate for such a small matter. You're really something. The black-clothed youth sneered. What? Li Bu? The manager of the treasure pavilion was bewildered. That's right. I was asked by Li Bu Er to investigate this matter. Do you know why Li Bu Er made things difficult for you? If he knew, why would he trade with Ren Xiaolan, an ordinary staff member, but not with you, the manager of the treasure hall? The black-clothed youth said indifferently. Why? The supervisor of the treasure pavilion was puzzled, because he didn't really leave after talking to you about the pill fire. So, he heard everything you said to Ren Xiaolan. The 5-clawed golden dragon deliberately destroyed the treasure pavilion because of this. You think you're smart, but you don't know that in front of Li Bu Er you're just a clown. The black-clothed youth's face was full of disdain. That's right. This black-clothed youth was Hui in disguise. The manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but mock himself when he heard Hui Yi's words. It turned out that Li Bu Er was deliberately targeting him back then. To think that he thought that everything was still under his control. What a joke. Hui put away the universe ring and said with a smile, Come. Let's talk about the solution. The manager of the treasure pavilion lowered his head, not daring to say a word. Hui said, Get up first. The manager of the treasure pavilion stood up and looked at Hui fearfully. Actually, Ren Xiaolan's request is very simple. She doesn't want to return to work in the treasure pavilion. She only wants you to apologize to her in public and prove her innocence. Hui said indifferently. This. The manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but panic. Hui said, Do you need my advice? Please tell me. The manager of the treasure pavilion hurriedly said, If you tell the truth, I believe that not only will you be reviled by the world, but your life will also be in danger. But if you don't tell the truth, Ren Xiaolan will bear the infamy of embezzlement for the rest of her life. This is unfair to her. So, I thought of a compromise. Call Ren Xiaolan over and apologize to her in public. Then tell everyone that the divine artifact was not lost. It was your mistake to wrongly accuse Ren Xiaolan. This way, not only can you give Ren Xiaolan an explanation, but you can also save your life. As for the so-called mistake, I believe that as long as you have a good attitude, the chief pavilion master and everyone else will not pursue it. Hui smiled. The manager of the treasure pavilion was moved. This method was indeed the best of both worlds. But why would this person help him? There must be a condition for helping you. The alchemy fire and alchemy furnace that Li Bu Er asked for. You must give it to us for free. Hui said. This. The manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned. He hurriedly shook his head and said, This won't do. Alchemy fire and alchemy furnace are extremely precious things. You can see that I have embezzled those treasures. Even if I embezzled a legendary divine artifact, I wouldn't dare to embezzle an alchemy fire. This is your business. If you don't cooperate, I will announce your corruption and embezzlement to the public right now. Hui said. The manager of the treasure pavilion paled. Actually, this is not difficult for you. As long as you do the accounts well, even the chief pavilion master may not be able to find out. Besides, I believe the chief pavilion master won't check the accounts for no reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't dare to embezzle so many treasures. Hui said indifferently. Huff. The manager of the treasure pavilion took a deep breath and nodded. Hey, I promise you. That's right. Don't play tricks. I have recorded everything you said just now. Hui took out an image crystal from his arms. The image crystal was in a state of recovery. You. The manager of the treasure pavilion stared at Hui angrily. What? You have a problem? Hui turned off the image crystal and looked at him unkindly. No. I will definitely cooperate with you. The manager of the treasure pavilion hurriedly waved his hand. Haha. Hui laughed and opened an altar. He jumped up and said, in 3 days, I will let Li Bu'er come to you personally to get the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. After saying that, his figure quickly dissipated. The manager of the treasure pavilion also collapsed on the chair. Not only did he lose such a large amount of treasures, but he also had to take the risk to get the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. It was really a loss. Stupid, really stupid. Why did he have to act smart and target Li Bu'er? Sigh. He sighed helplessly, got up and walked out of the room. He looked at a few staff members not far away and said, You guys, if anyone knows Ren Xiaolan, tell her to come to the treasure pavilion immediately. They were stunned. One of the women took out an image crystal and sent a message to Ren Xiaolan. When Ren Xiaolan received the message, she was still a little confused. Why did the manager ask her to go to the treasure pavilion? Could it be that Li Bu'er had already helped her settle this matter? But it shouldn't be so fast. She came to the treasure pavilion with a nervous heart. When the manager of the treasure pavilion saw her, he immediately apologized to her in front of everyone. And as Hui said, he publicly announced that it was his mistake. He sincerely invited Ren Xiaolan to continue working at the treasure pavilion. When Ren Xiaolan heard the manager's words, she was a little dissatisfied. He was obviously deliberately framing her, but in the end he said it was a mistake. However, she was also a smart person. If the manager of the treasure pavilion said so, it must have something to do with Qin Feiyang. And it was already very good that Qin Feiyang could help her to this extent. One must know how to be tactful. If she took an inch and wanted a mile, she was afraid that it would arouse the other party's disgust. In short, since her innocence had been cleared, there was no need to delve into the secrets hidden in it. This was not something that a small person like her should care about. At the same time, Hui and Qin Feiyang were also using the image crystal to communicate. But at this moment Qin Feiyang was extremely embarrassed. His body was covered with wounds and dripping with blood. Fire Lotus was also standing beside Qin Feiyang with a smile on her face. Qin Feiyang's injuries were naturally caused by Fire Lotus. Of course, this was also Qin Feiyang's own fault. This was because he had asked Huolian not to hold back when she was sparring with him. Hui looked at Qin Feiyang at this moment and couldn't help but find it funny. He asked, Is it okay for me to deal with it like this? You've already dealt with it, why are you still asking me? Qin Feiyang was speechless. I want to hear your opinion. Hui said. You want to hear the truth? Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and asked. Nonsense. Hui rolled his eyes at him. This way. Qin Feiyang pretended to ponder for a while and said with a smile, It's perfect. Hui immediately laughed proudly. You don't say, this steward is really brave. He actually coveted so much. Qin Feiyang even admired this person's courage. Yes. I was shocked as well. Hui nodded and asked, Then what should we do with these treasures? Soul stones, divine crystals, pills, the Black Tortoise realm doesn't lack them. Just give them to Fan Yunzhang. Let him distribute them to everyone. As for the divine artifacts and divine arts, you keep them first. When the time comes, give them to Fire Lotus and put them in the divine treasury. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said, You're willing to part with hundreds of billions of soul stones? Hui was speechless. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, For the current us, hundreds of billions of soul stones is just a number. This is really different from when we were in the northern region. Rich and overbearing. Okay. I'll go find Fan Yunzhang now. I'll also go to Black Rock City to have fun. 3 days later, don't forget to get the pill fire and furnace, Hui said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Hui's gaze turned and looked at Fire Lotus next to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Continue to beat him up. Beat him up ruthlessly. Don't be polite. He's asking for it anyway. Fire Lotus looked at the miserable Qin Feiyong and covered her mouth to laugh. Scram. Qin Feiyong glared at Hua Yi and turned off the image crystal. Qin Dage, let's continue. Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyong and laughed. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Qin Feiyong put away the image crystal and attacked Fire Lotus with all his might. Fire Lotus was really merciless. With a slap, she sent Qin Feiyong flying, blood spurting out. Again. Qin Feiyong shouted. All kinds of divine arts appeared. Although he was covered in wounds, his aura did not lose to Fire Lotus at all. Chapter 2550. Breaking news, breaking news. News just came out that there is a heaven-defying artifact and a heaven-defying art in this hell. What? There is such a divine object. As the days passed, the news about hell spread more and more fiercely in Divine Prefecture. And the person behind all this was naturally Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong seemed to want to whet people's appetite. Every once in a while, he would let people spread a little bit of news. Another piece of news came out. The heaven-defying artifact of the 10 great dragons was obtained in hell. That means the previous news is not false. This hell really has a heaven-defying art and a heaven-defying artifact. People were extremely excited. The heaven-defying artifact of the ancestral dragon was obtained in hell. One could imagine how many divine objects there were in hell. Shocking news, shocking news. It is said that there is an inheritance of the power of law in hell. No way. There is even an inheritance of the power of law. What exactly is this place? Can we go in? What are the restrictions? Releasing the news bit by bit really whetted everyone's appetite. Similarly, everyone's heart was full of yearning. For half a year, under Yi Zhong's control, the basic situation of hell was finally exposed. Everyone also finally knew that there was a dragon god hidden among the dragons. And this hell was the treasure left by the dragon god for the dragons. They didn't know how strong this dragon god was. But they knew that since hell was left by the dragon god, its strength must be far beyond that of the dragon sovereign. It was estimated that even a heaven-defying artifact was nothing in the eyes of the dragon god. So, they were more eager for this hell left by the dragon god. But there were also some people who were slightly more rational who were thinking about a question. Since it was a treasure specially left for the dragons, why did the dragons open it to the public this time? When did the dragons become so generous? Was there any conspiracy in this? The dragons have released news that they have finally confirmed the opening time of the Underworld King's Hell. When will it open? 2 years later. Located in the plains of the Dragon God Mountain Range. Furthermore, no matter who it is, no matter what their cultivation is, they can enter the hell of the King of Hell. What about the people in the west, south, and east? You can go in too. There are no restrictions. Then hurry up and get ready. I must go in and take a look. If I'm lucky enough to get a heaven-defying divine artifact, then I'll be rich in the future. Each and every one of them was rubbing their palms, looking forward to that day. Some time passed. The rules of hell were also made public. People became even more excited, because this was a good thing for them. Take Qin Feiyong for example. If he could use the heaven-defying divine artifact and the heaven-defying divine art, who would dare to compete with him in hell? But things were different now. In the hell of the underworld, it was forbidden to use these powerful divine objects. One could only rely on one's own cultivation and ability. This way, when facing Qin Feiyong, they would have a certain degree of ability to counterattack. As such, the rules of hell of the underworld were tantamount to bad news for people like Qin Feiyong. But for ordinary people it was great news. Such a great effort to create momentum. It seems that the dragons are determined to destroy our Dragon Slayer palace this time. Somewhere. For figures stood against the wind. The aura of the 4 of them was extremely powerful. Destroy our Dragon Slayer palace? You think too much. Our Dragon Slayer palace is not worth the dragons doing this. The dragon's plan this time is obviously aimed at Qin Feiyong. One of them said lightly. This was the voice of a man, but his entire body was shrouded in flames and it was difficult to see his face clearly. Qin Feiyong, this kid is indeed powerful. The dragons have suffered great losses in his hands over the years, but he is just a kid after all. Is it worth it for the dragons to do this? Also, from what you said, why do I feel that this Qin Feiyang is more powerful than our Dragon Slayer palace? This time it was a woman who spoke. She was also surrounded by a layer of mist, and her entire person seemed a little hazy. Supreme Cloud, although you don't want to accept it, this is the truth. For the dragons, Qin Feiyang's threat has far surpassed our Dragon Slayer palace. You should also stop looking at Qin Feiyang with that sort of disdainful gaze. Although he is just a junior, the foundation he has now is not much worse than ours. The Sunset Divine Bow and the other 10 heaven-defying treasures are the best proof. The man who was surrounded by flames said. The Sunset Divine Bow. The woman called Supreme Cloud muttered to herself. Suddenly, she looked at the other two and said, Qin Badi and Lu Zhongyang. Both of you are Qin Feiyang's ancestors. Why don't you let Qin Feiyang give the Sunset Divine Bow and the other divine weapons to our Dragon Slayer palace? The two of them looked at each other. Qin Badian said, Supreme Cloud, please answer me first. Why should we do this? Because Qin Feiyang is also a member of our Dragon Slayer palace. He has an obligation to give the 10 heaven-defying treasures to us, Supreme Cloud said. I don't agree with that. First of all, he obtained the 10 heaven-defying treasures with his own ability and risked his life. We ignored it and forced him to hand them over. Secondly, although he has been conferred the title of Young Supreme Lord, he is still not a member of our Dragon Slayer Palace, because he hasn't officially joined the Dragon Slayer Palace, Qin Badian said. Supreme Cloud immediately said angrily, You are obviously siding with him. Siding with him? That's a little funny. Did you help Qin Feiyang when he was fighting for the 10 heaven-defying treasures? As for the obligation you mentioned, that's even more ridiculous. He obtained the heaven-defying treasures with his own ability. What obligation does he have to give them to you? If you want to talk about siding with him, it's you guys. Wu Baichuan and Du Yuntian crossed the border to the north and tried to harm Qin Feiyang. Why didn't you guys say anything about this? Just pretend you don't know. What's the point of this? Lu Zhongyang said coldly. Aren't you guys just thinking about yourselves after saying so much? Qin Feiyang is your descendant. The stronger Qin Feiyang's background is, the more advantageous it is for you guys. Supreme Cloud snorted. Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan are indeed in the wrong, but this is just a conflict between the younger generation. There's no need to make a big fuss over nothing. The man in flames said. Making a big fuss over nothing? From what you're saying, if Qin Feiyang were to kill the two of them, you wouldn't interfere? Lu Zhongyang said. The man in flames said, Lu Zhongyang, you are being unreasonable. How can a small conflict be compared to life and death? Small conflict? So, in your eyes, killing someone is just a small conflict. It seems that I have misunderstood the term small conflict before. Lu Zhongyang smiled coldly. That's enough. I didn't call you here today to argue about this. Let's discuss whether we should go to the Nether King's hell or not. Qin Badian said. It's a rare opportunity. Of course we have to go. Not only us, but everyone in the dragon-slaying temple has to go. The woman said without hesitation. I object. Although the dragons are targeting Qin Feiyang this time, they won't miss the chance to get rid of us if they can. Lu Zhongyang said. The woman said, so, according to you, we just watch? Yes, watch. While strengthening our strength, we wait for Qin Feiyang to rise. Lu Zhongyang nodded. Haha, I didn't expect that you, Lu Zhongyang, would pin your hopes on a junior. What a joke. The woman laughed unscrupulously. Then take it as a joke. After Lu Zhongyang finished speaking, he fell silent. The man in flames pondered for a while and said, actually, I think we should go. But not all of us, because Lu Zhongyang's concerns are not wrong. After the man in flames finished speaking, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, What do you think? Qin Badian said, I agree with Lu Zhongyang. The woman said in an overbearing manner, Then why did you call us here? I don't have the final say in the dragon-slaying temple. I have to discuss it with you. Qin Badian said. Who doesn't know that you are in cahoots with Lu Zhongyang? Do you still need to discuss it with us? The woman sneered. Then we might as well do this. Then we will do as we have decided. If you want to go, we won't stop you. If we don't want to go, don't force us. Don't quarrel. It's troublesome. Lu Zhongyang said lightly. All right. The woman nodded. Lu Zhengyang looked at the man in flames and asked, "What about you?" "Since Supreme Cloud has agreed, I won't waste any more time. Alright, let's do our own thing." The man in flames nodded. Qin Badian looked at the three of them and said, "I don't object. But there is one thing I want to make clear. Although we do our own thing, we must not harm the interests of the dragon-slaying temple. Otherwise don't blame me, Qin Badian, for being ruthless." "Afraid of you?" The woman sneered and turned to leave. "Qin Badian, in terms of seniority, you are still the junior of Supreme Cloud, and I don't be too arrogant." The man in flames looked at Qin Badian and said. Then he turned and flew into the sky. Lu Zhengyang retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Badian. He sighed and said, "Badian, these two people are getting more and more prejudiced against us. It's all because of Qin Feiyang. The Sunset Divine Bow and other divine artifacts have fallen into the hands of this kid, and the resources he looted from the major cities in the north, especially the power of the kill tactic. How can they not be jealous?" Qin Badian smiled bitterly. Lu Zhengyang's eyelids twitched. He said in surprise, "Then will they?" "Don't worry about that. Although they are jealous, they don't dare to deal with Qin Feiyang personally. They will only ask their subordinates to make things difficult for him." "But do you believe that their subordinates can pose a threat to this kid?" Qin Badian said with a smile. Lu Zhengyang laughed. "I'm just worried that this kid won't listen to our advice and sneak into the Nether King's hell." Qin Badian sighed. "There's nothing we can do about it, is there?" Lu Zhengyang smiled. "Sigh. Why is he so worrisome?" Qin Badian shook his head and sighed. "Why don't you talk to him personally? You can also meet him. After all, the two of you haven't really met." "All right. I'll try." Lu Zhengyang pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. Chapter 2551. 3 days later. The Black Tortoise Realm. The Devil's Land at the top of the clouds. Qin Feiyang was covered in blood, but his eyes were extremely cold. With a thought, the 3 moves of the Dragon God art, the 4 moves of the Fire Phoenix art, the Bright King Golden Body, the Soul Extinguishing art, the Fire Thunder Divine art, and the Divine Armor all appeared. Streaks of destructive aura surged out like a volcanic eruption. These auras had surpassed the legendary deity arts. Opposite, Fire Lotus was also aggressive. But at this moment there was a smile on her face. A total of half a year and 3 days had passed since Qin Feiyang came to the Black Tortoise Realm. A day outside was 100 years in the Black Tortoise Realm. In other words, 18,300 years had passed in the Black Tortoise Realm. For an entire 18,300 years, it was as if Qin Feiyang had been possessed by the devil. Every day, he would drag her to spar with him, and he would bleed almost every moment. Although he paid a lot, the harvest was also very amazing. Just like now, these 6 deity arts had all been upgraded to the supreme deity arts. "Girl, take this!" Qin Feiyang roared. The 6 deity arts shook the sky and attacked Fire Lotus. "If you were a half-step invincible realm expert like me, I might not be your opponent." But now, Huolien's red lips curled up slightly. She pointed a finger in the air, and the 6 supreme-grade divine arts all disintegrated. Qin Feiyang's mouth was full of blood, and he looked helpless. The gap in cultivation was indeed impossible to make up. "How is it?" Huolien giggled. "Don't be too proud. If you have the ability, then suppress your cultivation to the same level as mine." Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. "Okay." Fire Lotus nodded and directly suppressed her cultivation to the lesser immortal realm. "Haha, girl, you look down on me too much. You really dare to suppress your cultivation. 3,000 incarnations open." Qin Feiyang roared. In an instant, 3,000 incarnations appeared behind him. That's right. Now, even the 3,000 incarnations had been upgraded to perfection, and he could summon 3,000 incarnations. Seeing this, Fire Lotus's pupils shrank. "Unleash your full aura." Qin Feiyang threw his head back and roared. The various divine arts once again appeared in the world. Furthermore, he had also activated the Sinkhole art, View on Sword art, and Eclipse Moon. These 3 divine arts had also been raised to the legendary level. "Kill!" Qin Feiyang roared and took a step forward. Accompanied by a series of dragon roars, a large part of the sky collapsed. Heavenly Dragon's 9 steps. This was a legendary grade divine art that combined both killing and support. However, at this moment, the Heavenly Dragon's 9 steps had also been upgraded to the Sovereign grade. Divine Dragon Technique, Fire Phoenix Technique, Soul Extinguishing Technique, Bright King's Golden Body, Fire Lightning Divine Technique, Divine Armor, and Heavenly Dragon's 9 steps. In other words, Qin Feiyong now possessed 8 supreme-level divine arts. No, there was also the Qilin art. The Qilin art itself was a paragon-level deity art. In other words, currently he had mastered a total of 9 supreme-level divine arts. Qin Deity, you're cheating. Fire Lotus decisively released the suppression of her cultivation, and her divine power surged out. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a series of earth-shaking sounds, all of Qin Feiyong's divine arts were instantly annihilated. And at the same time, Qin Feiyong was sent flying, blood spurting out non-stop. Qin Feiyong stabilized his body, his face pale. He looked at Fire Lotus helplessly, and said, "You're the one who's cheating. There's nothing I can do about it. Who asked you to activate 3,000 incarnations?" Fire Lotus giggled. Qin Feiyong was speechless and shouted again, Don't. Fire Lotus hurriedly waved her hand. What? Qin Feiyong looked at her suspiciously. I've trained with you for 18,300 years. You're not tired, but I'm tired. We'll talk about it later. It's been so long, why haven't you gone to the treasure pavilion? Fire Lotus said. Yeah. Hui asked me to go to the treasure pavilion to get the pill fire and pill furnace, I forgot. Qin Feiyong slapped his head. The Divine Dragon Art and other divine arts have all been upgraded to supreme level. Even the Return to Ruins Art, Eclipse Moon, and Guiyuan Sword Art have all been upgraded to legendary level. That's about it. You should also go into seclusion to cultivate and improve your cultivation, Fire Lotus said. It's all because of you, Master, you taught me well. Qin Feiyong smiled. How would I dare to be your master? Fire Lotus shook her head. 18,000 years was a long time, but if it was someone else, they probably wouldn't even be able to upgrade one supreme level divine art. Yet, this person had managed to raise 7 deity incantations to the utmost exalted level. Such talent was no longer as simple as opening the door of potential. It was probably because he was born with extraordinary talent. Qin Feiyong said, Then I'll go wash up. You also go and have a good rest. Okay. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyong put away his 3,000 incarnations and landed in the courtyard in a flash. Treasure Pavilion. A young man in a black robe with a bruised face walked into the treasure pavilion. Young Master Li? Ren Xiaolan went up to greet him. When she saw the young man, she was stunned. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyong. As for his bruised face, it was naturally beaten up by Fire Lotus. Although the blood on his body had been washed clean, the bruises and scars would not disappear for a while. Long time no see. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Not long, just half a year. Ren Xiaolan smiled and asked suspiciously, What's wrong with you? I've been training all this time, so I became like this. Qin Feiyong smiled and asked, Where's your steward? The steward is looking at the account book. Shall I take you to him? Ren Xiaolan asked. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. Ren Xiaolan let Qin Feiyong inside. When they walked in front of a door, Ren Xiaolan turned to Qin Feiyong and whispered, Young master, I haven't thanked you in person. It's a small matter. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. It's a small matter to you, but to me it's a lifetime of innocence. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyong smiled and asked, Is the steward making things difficult for you now? No. Not only did he not make things difficult for me, but he's also quite polite to me. Some time ago he even talked to me and asked me to be his assistant. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, That's a good thing. But I didn't agree. Ren Xiaolan shook her head. Why? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. If she became the steward's assistant, Ren Xiaolan's status in the treasure pavilion would be second only to the steward. How could she refuse such a good thing? I don't like him. And I don't want to rely on connections. I want to rely on my own efforts. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyong was stunned and praised, Not bad. There aren't many people in this world who are as principled as you. Young master, you're too kind. Ren Xiaolan shook her head and turned to knock on the door, saying, Steward, Li Bua requests to see you. What? In the room. When the steward, who was sitting at the desk, heard Ren Xiaolan's words, he immediately got up and opened the door to welcome him. Brother Li, we're honored by your presence. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Please come in. That warmth was as if he had seen his ancestor. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked into the room. The steward looked at Qin Feiyang's back and smiled at Ren Xiaolan. Xiaolan, go to your work. Yes. Ren Xiaolan nodded and turned to leave. The steward closed the door and said with a smile, Brother Li, please take a seat. The two walked to the tea table and sat opposite each other. The steward made tea and said with a smile, we haven't seen each other for more than half a year. Brother Li, you're still so energetic. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched and said, you don't want to see me, do you? The steward's expression froze and he quickly waved his hand, saying, no, I've been looking forward to your arrival every day. But he was muttering in his heart. Did this person have discerning eyes? He could even see that. Qin Feiyang chuckled and asked, half a year ago, my friend asked you to prepare the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. How's the preparation going? What should come will come in the end. The treasure hall steward sighed secretly and said with a flattering smile, it's been prepared long ago, but I don't understand. Your friend said that he would come to pick it up in 3 days. Why did you only come after half a year? I was delayed by something. Give it to me. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. The treasure hall steward nodded and took out a long wooden box from his qi si. He then took out a spirit tablet with a secret compartment hidden at the bottom. Inside the secret compartment was an interspatial ring. This is the box you hid your things in? Qin Feiyang looked at the wooden box curiously. Hui had told him about it at the time, and he found it hard to believe. In this world, how could someone use their late father's spirit tablet as a cover? But he didn't expect it to be true. The steward smiled and took out the interspatial ring from the secret compartment. Then, he took out 6 square iron boxes and a cauldron-shaped alchemy furnace from the interspatial ring. The alchemy furnace was crimson red, with 3 legs and 2 handles. It was engraved with fiery clouds, shining brightly in all directions. The steward smiled and said, this is a 6th grade divine alchemy furnace, the fire cloud furnace. Qin Feiyang looked carefully and nodded in satisfaction. It was indeed a 6th grade divine alchemy furnace. The steward pointed to the 6 iron boxes and said, inside these iron boxes are 3 4th grade divine alchemy fires and 3 5th grade divine alchemy fires. Qin Feiyang opened them one by one, and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he put them away. The steward smiled and said, Brother Li, are you satisfied? Not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked suspiciously, but why aren't there any 6th grade divine alchemy fires? The steward's expression stiffened and he sighed. To tell you the truth, even in the treasure hall, 6th grade divine alchemy fires are few and far between. Moreover, the chief pavilion master knows all of these alchemy fires, so I really didn't dare to take the risk and steal them. Please forgive me. Actually, a 6th grade divine alchemy furnace is the same. The chief pavilion master knows all of them. So this fire cloud furnace doesn't belong to the treasure hall. I went out to buy it some time ago. The steward added. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Then I'll have to trouble you. It's no trouble at all. As long as you're satisfied. The steward hurriedly waved his hand. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and got up. All right then, I'll take my leave first. Wait. The steward hurriedly reached out to stop Qin Feiyang. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Brother Li, look. I've given you the alchemy fire and furnace for free. Then, can you destroy the video recorded by your friend? The steward looked at Qin Feiyang flatteringly. Destroy? That won't do. What if you bite me again after destroying the evidence? It's all in the past. Even if what I say is true, no one will believe me. Qin Feiyang said. How is that possible? Even if I have 100 guts, I won't dare to provoke you again. Brother Li, don't worry. I've really turned over a new leaf. The steward was burning with anxiety and looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. You're not thinking clearly. The manager looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What did he mean by that? Qin Feiyang said. Haven't you noticed that there's a huge business opportunity in front of you? Business opportunity? The manager was even more confused. Qin Feiyong asked, is the Nether King's Hell about to open? Yes. There's still 2 years left. The manager nodded. 2 years? Qin Feiyong was stunned. So soon? Although the news had spread outside, Qin Feiyong, who had been cultivating in the Black Tortoise world, only knew about it now. The manager urged, brotherly, tell me quickly, what kind of business opportunity is it? Qin Feiyong said. It's said that the Nether King's Hell has a slim chance of survival. What do you need the most to enter such a place? The manager said without hesitation. What you need the most is courage and strength. Qin Feiyong was stunned for a moment, then nodded. That's true. What else? What else? The manager pondered for a moment and shook his head at Qin Feiyong. Are you stupid? Of course, what you need is pills. Pills are the most commonly used means to save your life. Especially these divine life pills. Qin Feiyong said. I understand now. The manager slapped his head and said, you mean you want me to sell a lot of divine life pills at this time? That's right. Look, the divine elixir of life is very helpful for healing injuries. Especially these 3 divine life pills with dragon-shaped pill chi. If you put them up for auction now, won't it cause a frenzy? Isn't this a business opportunity to make money? Qin Feiyong said. That's right. The manager nodded and said in admiration, brotherly, I didn't know you had such a business mind. I just don't like doing business. Otherwise, you wouldn't be the manager of the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City. Qin Feiyong smiled. Yes. The steward nodded with a flattering smile on his face. However, the 10 divine life pills you've given me are still too few. Qin Feiyong said. It's none of my business. I'm only responsible for giving you ideas. Brotherly, how about this? Let's continue working together. The treasure pavilion will provide the ingredients, and you'll be responsible for refining the pills. We'll split the profits according to the ratio. The steward rolled his eyes and said with a smile. Not interested. Qin Feiyong shook his head. He didn't lack soul stones or divine crystals. What was the point of doing this? Brotherly, as you said, this is a big business. The profits are frighteningly high. Why aren't you interested? The manager was a little helpless. It doesn't necessarily have to be the divine life elixir with 3 dragon-shaped elixirs. 1 or 2 divine life elixir can also increase the price by several times. Alright, I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Do as you see fit. After saying that, Qin Feiyong opened an altar and left. How can 1 or 2 divine life pills compare to 3 divine life pills with dragon core chi? The manager rubbed his forehead. Wait, could it be that opening an altar and leaving was just a pretense like the last time? The manager hurriedly released his divine will, and didn't find any spatial divine items in the room. He was relieved. Then he sat by the tea table and pondered. How could he persuade this person to cooperate with the treasure pavilion? If he could do this and bring great benefits to the treasure pavilion, the chief pavilion lord would definitely look at him in a new light. In the future, his status in the treasure school would also instantly rise. Right. Didn't he want the alchemy fire and cauldron? Then I'll give them to him. Okay, it's decided. I'll ask the chief pavilion lord first. The manager immediately took out an image crystal and sent a message to the chief pavilion lord. Back to Qin Feiyong. At this moment, he landed at the bottom of the stone stairs outside the Dragon God Palace and scanned the surroundings. In the past, every time he went in and out, he would meet many disciples of the Dragon God Palace here. They were either there to train or to eat, drink, and have fun. But this time there was no one here. It seemed that everyone was preparing to enter the Nether King's Hell. There are only 2 years left. I have to hurry up and cultivate. Qin Feiyong whispered and was about to call Frenzy out. But suddenly, a deadly sense of danger came from behind him. Qin Feiyong shuddered and turned around abruptly. He saw a beam of divine light shooting out from the distant mountains and charging towards him at lightning speed. Who is it? Qin Feiyong shouted. The aura of this divine light didn't seem very strong. He blasted it, and the divine light was immediately shattered. However, he was also forced back a few steps. And from this, he could tell that the person who ambushed him was at least a greater god. Swish! Qin Feiyong rushed into the sky and looked toward the mountains. He immediately saw a figure fleeing into the distance. You want to leave after ambushing me? Qin Feiyong smiled sinisterly. Using the walk formula, he chased after him like a flash of lightning. That person's speed seemed to be slower than Qin Feiyong's. The distance between the two kept getting closer. From the back, it was a middle-aged man about 1.8 meters tall. He was thin and wore a snow-white robe. The aura he exuded was indeed that of a greater god. The two of them rushed into the depths of the Dragon God mountain range one after another. Who are you? Why did you ambush me? Qin Feiyong shouted. Dozens of sword shadows appeared out of nowhere, and the sharpness was earth-shattering as they slashed toward the middle-aged man. The Guiyuan sword technique. The Guiyuan sword technique was now a legendary divine technique, and its power was several times stronger than before. The void collapsed one after another. The earth was also shaking. A legendary divine technique? The middle-aged man was stunned. Then he slapped out with his palm. A fiery red divine power appeared and turned into a huge flaming sword. It slashed toward the Guiyuan sword technique, as if it could split heaven and earth. There was a loud rumble. Under Qin Feiyong's incredulous gaze, the dozens of sword shadows formed by the Guiyuan sword technique shattered like withered wood. It was a complete suppression. The flaming sword didn't stop at all. It carried a destructive aura as it slashed toward Qin Feiyong. Humph! Qin Feiyong snorted coldly. He took a step forward, and a monstrous aura erupted from the bottom of his feet. The second step was even stronger. He took 9 steps in a row, accompanied by a loud dragon's roar. A 10,000-meter-long heavenly dragon roared out. Heavenly dragon 9 steps. With the 9th step, he could summon a heavenly dragon. The heavenly dragon roared in the sky and rushed toward the flaming sword. The two immediately dissipated in the void. The destructive aura surged in all directions. So strong. Qin Feiyong was shocked. This flaming sword was definitely formed by a divine technique, and it was at least a legendary divine technique. At the same time, the middle-aged man waved his hand, and the crazy battle fluctuations instantly calmed down. Then he slowly turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was stunned. This person's face was actually wearing a mask. But inexplicably, this person gave him a sense of familiarity. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Not bad. You actually mastered a supreme divine technique. Who exactly are you?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. The middle-aged man smiled faintly and said, "If you want to know who I am, then it depends on your ability. Okay. Then just wait for your despair." Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and 3,000 clones appeared. You have already cultivated 3,000 clones to perfection? The middle-aged man was surprised. Qin Feiyong was also surprised and shouted, "How do you know 3,000 clones? I know far more than you think." The middle-aged man waved his hand, and a wave of flame divine power rolled out. The next moment, a palm-sized divine seal appeared. The divine seal was fiery red, and at the bottom, there was a fire phoenix clinging to it. This is... Qin Feiyong looked at the divine seal in a daze. It was actually the first style of the fire phoenix art, fire phoenix seal. Chapter 2553. Fire Phoenix Technique. As far as Qin Feiyong knew, other than the Liu family, he was the only one who knew the Fire Phoenix technique in this world. And this person actually knew about the 3,000 incarnations. A figure suddenly appeared in Qin Feiyong's mind. Could it be him? The Fire Phoenix seal had already arrived. That aura had reached the level of the supreme divine technique. Qin Feiyong looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and he shouted to the 3,000 incarnations, "Kill him!" Boom! Immediately, flames soared into the sky. In the sky above, 3,001 Fire Phoenix seals instantly appeared. This aura. The middle-aged man was startled. It had actually reached the level of the supreme divine technique. Kill! Qin Feiyong and the 3,000 incarnations roared in unison. The Fire Phoenix seal immediately collided with the Fire Phoenix technique on the opposite side like a meteor. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a series of earth-shaking loud noises, after losing hundreds of Fire Phoenix seals, the opposite Fire Phoenix seal finally collapsed. Don't stop. How dare you sneak attack me, directly cripple him. Qin Feiyang shouted. The remaining 2,000 or so fire phoenix seals bombarded the middle-aged man. Cripple me? The middle-aged man's mouth twitched. What an arrogant brat. It seemed that if he didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Boom! Suddenly, the middle-aged man's aura soared, and he slammed his palm into the air. A wave of divine power surged out, crushing the 2,000 or so fire phoenix seals as easily as crushing dry weeds. Still hiding your strength? Qin Feiyang was furious, and he decisively activated the kill technique, and a blood-red flash instantly appeared in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, and still slapped with his bare hands. Boom! The blood-red flash immediately dissipated. What? Qin Feiyang looked shocked, and suddenly a monstrous murderous intent emerged. As the blood-red light burst out, a blood-red long sword appeared. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he said angrily, "Bastard brat, are you serious? Do you think I'm playing house with you?" Qin Feiyang sneered. The middle-aged man was speechless. But suddenly, he looked in the direction of the Dragon God Palace, and his pupils shrank as he hurriedly said, "Yi Zhong is here, stop." As he spoke, the middle-aged man waved his hand and quickly erased the battle fluctuations here. What? Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he hurriedly led the middle-aged man into the castle. Soon, a white-haired old man flew over. He stopped in midair and scanned his surroundings. Where is he? He then released his inner sight, but found nothing in the void of space. After looking at him suspiciously for a while, Yi Zhong turned around and left. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Zhong leaving. The middle-aged man let out a long breath and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He snorted coldly and said, "Boy, you've got guts. You even want to kill me. Who are you? Do I know you?" Qin Feiyang looked at him coldly. Playing dumb? The middle-aged man's face darkened as he said angrily, "If you didn't recognize me, how dare you bring me to the castle? I really didn't recognize you. Who are you? Why did you sneak attack me?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The middle-aged man couldn't help but be angry and took off his mask. Immediately, a weather-beaten face appeared in Qin Feiyang's line of sight. It was indeed a middle-aged face. His facial features were as if they were carved by a knife. His two eyebrows were as neat as a knife. There were wisps of white hair at his temples, emitting an aura of vicissitudes. "It's really him," Qin Feiyang muttered in his heart. That's right. This person was Lu Zhengyang. Although he had never seen Lu Zhengyang's original body, he had seen Lu Zhengyang's statue and could recognize him at a glance. And when he saw the Fire Phoenix technique before, he had indeed guessed that it was Lu Zhengyang. He pretended not to know because he wanted to cooperate with Lu Zhengyang to finish this show. If his identity was exposed, wouldn't Lu Zhengyang lose face? Qin Feiyang's eyes turned, and he looked at Lu Zhengyang in surprise and said, "You are still pretending?" Lu Zhengyang's veins were bulging. He didn't believe that Qin Feiyang couldn't recognize him. You aren't you? Ancestor Lu Zhengyang? So it's you. I'm sorry, I really didn't recognize you before." Qin Feiyang hurriedly apologized, full of fear. "You're not done, are you?" Lu Zhengyang glared at him angrily. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Don't you like to act? Then I'll definitely cooperate with you. Respect the old and love the young." Lu Zhengyang rolled his eyes, then began to look at the castle. Why did you suddenly come to see me?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. "Can't I come to see you?" Lu Zhengyang said lightly, walked out of the castle, and shook his head as he glanced outside. Qin Feiyang followed him out and said with a smile, "Look at what you're saying. It's my honor that you can come." "Did you eat honey?" Lu Zhengyang was speechless. Qin Feiyang scratched his head and laughed dryly. "Lu Zhengyang?" Suddenly, Fire Lotus came from afar and looked at Lu Zhengyang in surprise. "Palace Master, long time no see." Lu Zhengyang cupped his hands and smiled. "You know each other?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them in surprise. "I had the honor of meeting you once." Fire Lotus smiled and walked closer. Looking at Lu Zhengyang, she said with emotion, "It's been many years. How have you been these years?" "Pretty good." Lu Zhengyang nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you for taking care of this kid all these years. You're being too polite. Besides, it's Qin Dage who has always been taking care of me." Fire Lotus shook her head. "Qin Dage?" Lu Zhengyang was stunned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang with a strange look in his eyes. "Ancestor, is there a problem?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. "Do you know how old she is?" "According to age and seniority, I have to address her as a junior." Lu Zhengyang transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang said secretly, "You still have to address yourself as a junior in front of Fire Lotus? Then I'm her brother and sister. Don't you have to address me as—" "Get lost." Without waiting for Qin Feiyang to finish, Lu Zhengyang glared at him fiercely. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. Fire Lotus smiled and said, "Let's go to the courtyard over there and sit and talk." "Okay." Lu Zhengyang nodded. Although his cultivation was now stronger than Fire Lotus, he was still very polite to Fire Lotus. The three of them entered the courtyard and sat in the pavilion. Fire Lotus began to make tea. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "Ancestor, what do you think of my black tortoise world?" Lu Zhengyang looked around and said with a smile, "It's very good. How did you get the black tortoise world?" "I heard from Zhao Tailai and the others. It's rare." "Yes. When I got the black tortoise world, I was really fighting to survive." Qin Feiyang nodded. For a moment he was filled with emotions. At that time, no one would have thought that only mortals could enter the Great Hall. "Feiyang, have you ever thought that the small beast might be helping you?" Lu Zhengyang said. "Helping me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes. Think about it. At that time it killed everyone in the depths of the desert. Then you opened the gate of rebirth to save everyone and lost your cultivation. And that great hall can only be entered by mortals. Could it be that the small beast wanted you to enter that great hall and get the black tortoise world, so it used this method to destroy your cultivation?" Lu Zhengyang analyzed. Qin Feiyang fell silent. Suddenly, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "Whether it's helping me or not, I won't let it go." Lu Zhengyang asked, "Is it because of your cousin and the inner demons?" "Yes. And Uncle Yuan. In order to protect the Qin clan, Uncle Yuan became the guardian of the great Qin Empire. And as a price, his cultivation will forever stop at the half-step Divine Lord realm. I don't know how to help Uncle Yuan, but I think that if the small beast dies, the curse will definitely disappear." Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang comforted him. "Actually, you don't have to blame yourself because I believe that neither your cousin nor the inner demons will blame you. It'll be good if they blame me because at least it means that they're still alive," Qin Feiyang said dejectedly. "Sigh." Lu Zhengyang sighed inwardly and didn't know how to continue comforting him. He patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, indicating that he should be more open-minded. After Fire Lotus brewed tea, she looked at the two of them and smiled. "Let's not talk about these things. Have some tea." "Yes, let's not talk about it." Lu Zhengyang waved his hand. He picked up the teacup and sniffed it. His eyes immediately lit up and he started tasting it. His face was filled with reminiscence. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was still a little dejected, she smiled. "This is heavenly immortal dew, right?" Qin Feiyang started and asked in astonishment, "You know about it?" "Of course. I once stayed in the Eastern Tomb for a long period of time, and the Heavenly Immortal Tower is the place I frequented the most." Lu Zhengyang smiled and asked, "Oh right, who is the current Tower Lord of the Heavenly Immortal Tower?" It's useless to ask Qin Dage because he doesn't even know Miss Heavenly Immortal's name. But I can answer you. The current Tower Lord of the Heavenly Immortal Tower is Old Pang's granddaughter. Fire Lotus smiled. "His granddaughter?" Lu Zhengyang was stunned. Fire Lotus nodded. "I didn't expect his granddaughter to be able to hold her own. Time really flies." Lu Zhengyang shook his head and sighed. "Since you've stayed in the Eastern Tomb, why haven't I heard any rumors about you?" Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Zhengyang suspiciously. "One has to keep a low profile." Lu Zhengyang smiled. "How can one become one of the 4 sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace by keeping a low profile?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. "You don't say. I'm really not interested in the sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Back then, I founded the Dragon Slayer Palace with Qin Batian because he tricked me. Now I can't wait for someone to replace me. Feiyang, you're quite capable. Why don't you do it? Lu Zhengyang said. Me? Forget it. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand. He wasn't interested in such a tedious task. After all, I'm considered half your ancestor. Aren't you going to help me with such a small matter? Lu Zhengyang was dissatisfied. It's not like you don't know me. I'm more afraid of trouble than you are. Let's talk about it later. It's related to the sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace. This is just a small matter? You really treat me like a 3-year-old child. Qin Feiyong shook his head speechlessly. Lu Zhengyang smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyong took a sip of tea and said indifferently, "You didn't come here just to chat with me, right?" For example, the fierce battle with Long Zun and the 6 ancestral dragons in the Internal Sea last time. Although it was to buy time for Fire Lotus and the others, it was also to attract your attention. In short, I'm just trying to make my presence known in front of you, Qin Feiyong said. Lu Zhengyang couldn't help but fall silent when he heard this. He never expected Qin Feiyong to have such a side to him. After hearing these words, do you think I'm very pitiful? Do I have to deliberately make my presence known in front of my family? In fact, even I feel quite pitiful. No, that's humble. Qin Feiyong laughed self-deprecatingly. Lu Zhengyang said apologetically, Feiyong, I'm sorry. We didn't think of this. We all thought I was very strong? Yes. I usually have an indifferent attitude, but no matter what, I'm still a person of flesh and blood, right? I can also taste the fickleness of human nature. I also know what loneliness and loss are. I'm not made of iron. I'm immune to all poisons. Even if I'm made of iron, there will be a day when I rust. Qin Feiyong said. Yes. Lu Zhengyang nodded repeatedly. That's enough. Let's not talk about this. Otherwise, you'll sound like a resentful wife. I've already decided on the matter of the Nether King's hell. No matter how much you say, it's useless. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Do you really want to go in? What's the reason? Lu Zhengyang frowned. Qin Feiyong said, I want to become stronger. Is this reason enough? There are many ways to become stronger. There's no need to go to the Nether King's hell. Lu Zhengyang said. This is a shortcut. Although every step is dangerous, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Also, although I accepted the task you gave me, I did it for your sake, not for the sake of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Don't force anything on me. Qin Feiyong said lightly. Force anything? Lu Zhengyang was taken aback. For example, you want me to hand over the heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyong said. Lu Zhengyang's heart skipped a beat. This kid was really disgusted by these things. He couldn't help but worry. He and Qin Badian would definitely not do this, but it was hard to say what the other 2 sovereigns would do. If this matter wasn't handled properly with this kid's character, he would probably wash his hands of it. He might even point his finger at the Dragon Slayer Palace. It seemed that he had to find another time to have a good talk with the other 2 sovereigns. Don't worry, they won't. Lu Zhengyang said with a smile. It's best that they won't. Qin Feiyong had a smile on his face and asked, Then I'll take you around the Black Tortoise world. Sure. Lu Zhengyang nodded. Now he couldn't continue to persuade Qin Feiyong. Because of Qin Feiyong's words, it was he who felt guilty in his heart. He was thinking about how he could make up for what he owed this little fellow. In the next few days, Qin Feiyong took Lu Zhengyang to various places in the Black Tortoise world. Looking at everything in the Black Tortoise world, Lu Zhengyang was also amazed. The Black Tortoise world is what it is today because of the Fire Lotus. On the peak of a mountain, Qin Feiyong glanced at the surrounding mountains and rivers and said with a smile. Lu Zhengyang said, It seems that you have deep feelings for the Fire Lotus. From knowing each other to knowing each other until now, we've been through too much. Tell me the truth. My feelings for the Fire Lotus far exceed yours and ancestors. Qin Feiyong said. Lu Zhengyang said unhappily, Aren't you afraid that we'll be jealous? This is the truth. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips. Lu Zhengyang felt helpless in his heart. He really didn't care about their feelings. By the way, ancestor, let Zhao Tailai and the others return to my side. Qin Feiyong said. Why? Lu Zhengyang was stunned. Qin Feiyong said. There's no future if I follow you. What the hell? Say that again. Lu Zhengyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang said, there's no future if I follow you. Lu Zhengyang immediately said angrily, boy, are you arrogant? Are you angry? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Lu Zhengyang said, of course, if it were you, wouldn't you be angry? But I'm telling the truth. First, the time array. The time array of the dragon-slaying palace is 50 years a day, but the time array of the Black Tortoise world and the ancient castle is 100 years a day. The difference is double. Next, the divine techniques and artifacts. There may be more divine techniques and artifacts in the dragon-slaying palace's treasury, but can you guarantee that you'll give them the best? You can't guarantee it, but I can. Finally, cultivation. The dragon-slaying palace must have many spirit veins and crystal veins, but I guess that they may not be comparable to what I have now. Qin Feiyang said with a confident smile. Hearing this, Lu Zhengyang was speechless for a moment. You might say that you can also teach them the experience of entering the imperishable realm. But now, I have many imperishable realm cultivators with me, and I have 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts. Although they are divine artifacts, they should have more experience than us. So, in my opinion, if old Zhao and the others continue to stay in the dragon-slaying palace, they will only destroy their own future. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, Lu Zhengyang smiled bitterly. Of course. I'm also very grateful to you and the ancestor for taking care of them during this period, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. You little brat, Lu Zhengyang scolded with a smile and nodded. Okay, when I go back, I'll ask them to come to you. Thank you, ancestor. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. Lu Zhengyang sized up Qin Feiyang, shook his head and said, that's not right. Your goal shouldn't be that simple, right? Purpose. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said, they are all my companions. What purpose can I have for them? That's not what I mean. What I mean is, you're doing it because of the mermaid princess. Lu Zhengyang said. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. I guessed right. If you want the mermaid princess to stay by your side, just say it. Lu Zhengyang teased. That's one thing. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. I say, since you like her, why don't you just marry her? Lu Zhengyang was suspicious. Isn't it because I want to come to the ancient world to look for you and the ancestor? Otherwise, we would have been married long ago. Maybe we would have a lot of children by now. Qin Feiyang said. A lot of children? You're really not afraid of blushing when you talk. Lu Zhengyang's face twitched and he said, do you mean that we're holding you back? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. I'll go back and discuss with your ancestor and the mermaid emperor to arrange your marriage, Lu Zhengyang said. Don't. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. What do you mean? Lu Zhengyang looked at him in confusion. I don't care how others get married, but when I get married, father, mother, grandfather, Uncle Yuan, and great-grandfather must be present. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang said in surprise. I didn't know that you were so filial. You still can't tell? If I'm not filial, why would I come all the way to look for you and the ancestor? I finally realize now that I'm really stupid. Okay. Tomorrow when Zhao Tailai and the others come back, I'll take them back to the great Qin. Qin Feiyang said sadly. Lu Zhengyang rolled his eyes and said, okay, don't talk nonsense. Send me out, but I hope you'll think about the matter of the Nether King's hell. Since I've decided, what's there to think about? Men should be more decisive and be more ruthless to themselves, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Bastard. Lu Zhengyang glared at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grinned and sent Lu Zhengyang out. Although a few days had passed in the Black Tortoise realm, only a short while had passed outside. Worried that Yi Zhong would discover him, Lu Zhengyang immediately opened a teleportation altar and left as soon as he appeared in the sky above the Dragon God mountain range. Chapter 2555. Qin Feiyang also returned to the Devil's Land. Has he left? Seeing that only Qin Feiyang came back, Fire Lotus asked with a smile. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fire Lotus thought for a while and asked curiously, Qin Dage, what you've done all these years, are you really trying to find a sense of existence? Don't touch on my sore spot, okay? Qin Feiyang was helpless. He already felt embarrassed to say these words that were hidden in his heart. Now you're asking, aren't you embarrassing me even more? But then again, after saying these words, he felt a lot more comfortable in his heart. Buzz. At this moment, the image crystal rang. Qin Feiyong took out the image crystal and looked at Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus understood and walked to the side. When the image crystal was turned on, a shadow immediately emerged. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. Why was it Ren Xiaolan? Ren Xiaolan looked at Qin Feiyong and asked with a smile, "Young Master Li, I hope I didn't disturb you." "No." Qin Feiyong shook his head and asked, "What's the matter?" Ren Xiaolan said, "The steward is looking for you." "Steward?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and waved his hand. "Just say that I'm not free." After saying that, he was about to turn off the image crystal. But at this moment, a figure jumped to Ren Xiaolan's side and looked at Qin Feiyong aggrievedly. "Brother Li, do you dislike me so much?" This person was the Treasure Pavilion steward. Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly and said, "If it's about the divine pill, let's talk face to face." "Don't. I've just asked the Chief Pavilion Master." The Chief Pavilion Master said that as long as Brother Li cooperates with our Treasure Pavilion, we are willing to give you 3 clusters of 6th grade Divine Pill Fire and a 7th grade Divine Pill Furnace for free. The Treasure Pavilion steward hurriedly said. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked, "Really?" "Absolutely." Seeing that Qin Feiyong was somewhat tempted, the supervisor quickly nodded. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He looked at the supervisor and said, "I'm a little confused. Is there no one in the Treasure Pavilion who can refine a divine pellet with 3 dragon-shaped core energies?" "No. Even the best alchemist in my Treasure Pavilion can only refine divine pills with 2 dragon-shaped core chi." The Treasure Pavilion manager shook his head. In his heart, he couldn't help but grumble. If the Treasure Pavilion had such an alchemist, would we even need to look for you? What about other places? The Divine Land is so big. There must be a few who can make it. Qin Feiyong said. "There is. But we can't invite these people." The manager of the Treasure Pavilion was helpless. "Even your Treasure Pavilion can't move?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "That's not strange, right? After all, alchemists at your level basically don't lack anything. So ordinary things can't move them at all. Then there's someone like your master Yizhong. Even if he's tempted by a treasure, he won't refine it for us." The manager of the Treasure Pavilion smiled bitterly. "That makes sense." Qin Feiyong nodded. However, he suddenly looked stunned and said, "What did you just say? My master Yizhong is also an alchemist?" The manager of the Treasure Pavilion was also stunned and asked in return, "You don't know?" "I don't know." Qin Feiyong shook his head. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and shook his head. "Brother Li, you don't even know that Yizhong is an alchemist. You're not qualified to be a disciple." Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. He really didn't know much about Yizhong. Your master not only has a high cultivation level, but he's also recognized as the best in the Divine Land in alchemy. Do you know? He can refine divine pills with 4 dragon-shaped elixir auras. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said. "What?" Qin Feiyong was shocked. And he's also the only person in the Divine Land who has a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and a 9th grade Divine Elixir Furnace. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said again, 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire. 9th grade Divine Elixir Furnace. Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. He didn't expect the master he picked up to be so terrifying. "How is it? Is it an eye-opener?" The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said with a smile. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "You said that he's the only person in the Divine Land who has a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and an Elixir Furnace. Does that mean that even the Treasure Pavilion doesn't have a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and an Elixir Furnace?" "No. As far as I know, the best Divine Elixir Fire and Elixir Furnace in the Treasure Pavilion are 8th grade. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said. Qin Feiyong nodded and asked, "What about Qin Batian? Since his ancestor could refine divine elixirs, his elixir fire and elixir furnace must be of high level." Qin Batian? The manager of the Treasure Pavilion was stunned and said, "I heard that he also has an 8th grade divine elixir fire and an elixir furnace." "Heard?" Qin Feiyong frowned. Qin Batian is the sovereign of the dragon-slaying palace. He's always been elusive. Even the Treasure Pavilion doesn't know much about him. The manager of the treasure pavilion shook his head. Qin Feiyong nodded and pondered for a moment. Okay, as long as you give me an elixir fire and an elixir furnace, I agree to cooperate with you. The manager of the treasure pavilion was overjoyed and said, Then come to the treasure pavilion now. No, I wouldn't dare to trouble you to come here in person. Where are you now? I'll go find you now. You're busy with work. Just ask Ren Xiaolan to come find me. Remember to bring an elixir fire, an elixir furnace, and the herbs you need to refine. I'll wait on the plains outside the Dragon God Mountain. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he turned off the image crystal. Fire Lotus walked to Qin Feiyong and said, It seems that we still underestimated Yi Zhong. Yes. He has both strength and brains. Even his alchemy is so terrifying. I finally understand why our ancestor wanted him to join the dragon-slaying palace. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a person? Qin Feiyong shook his head. Fire Lotus asked, You're tempted too? Hey! He's my master. So what? We can't let outsiders benefit. Qin Feiyong chuckled. Outsiders? Fire Lotus was taken aback and said speechlessly, It seems that Qin Batian and Lu Zhenyang are not outsiders either. They're definitely not outsiders, but the other two emperors are. So no matter what, we can't let Yi Zhong join the dragon-slaying palace. If he's going to stay, he'll stay by our side. Qin Feiyong laughed. You're really evil. But then again, if Yi Zhong is really willing to help you, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. I'm afraid that not only the dragons, but even the dragon-slaying palace will be afraid of you. Fire Lotus said. That's right. However, dreams are beautiful, reality is cruel. It's harder than ascending to heaven to get him to help us. I'm wondering why he wants to help the dragons. Qin Feiyong frowned. Yi Cheng doesn't know, and Yi Xuer definitely doesn't know either. I'm afraid only Yi Zhong himself knows the answer. After Fire Lotus finished speaking, she added, There's also the dragon sovereign. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, Only by figuring out the answer can we deal with the right problem. It'll be difficult. After all, even Yi Cheng can't find out, let alone you. Fire Lotus sighed. Where there's a will, there's a way. Qin Feiyong smiled and controlled the Black Tortoise Realm to fly towards the plains. A moment later, the Black Tortoise Realm descended above the plains, but Ren Xiaolan hadn't arrived yet. Qin Feiyong stood in the courtyard with his head lowered, thinking about how to pry open Yi Zhong's mouth. Outside, about half an hour passed. A figure appeared. It was Ren Xiaolan. Ren Xiaolan glanced at the plains and saw that there was no one, so she waited quietly. Swish. But soon, Qin Feiyong appeared out of thin air. Greetings, young master. Ren Xiaolan hurriedly went up to greet him. Qin Feiyong asked, Did you bring everything? Yes. Ren Xiaolan nodded and took out a Qingkuan bag, handing it to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong grabbed the Qingkuan bag and released his spirit sense. When he saw the herbs in the Qingkuan bag, the corner of his mouth twitched. The Qingkuan bag was filled to the brim with herbs. Ren Xiaolan smiled and said, The steward said that although there are many herbs, there's no rush. You can refine them slowly. Qin Feiyong shook his head and took out 3 iron boxes from the Qingkuan bag. Opening them immediately, 3 clusters of elixir flames appeared in front of him. After confirming, they were indeed grade 6 divine elixir flames. Qin Feiyong took out another elixir furnace from the Qingkuan bag. Like the fire cloud cauldron, it was also a cauldron-shaped elixir furnace. It was scarlet red like a scorching sun, emitting a dazzling treasure light. This cauldron is called the Heaven Flames Divine Cauldron. It's one of the best elixir furnaces in the treasure pavilion. Ren Xiaolan said, All right, wait for me here. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he entered the castle with the elixir flames, elixir furnace, and Qingkuan bag. Ren Xiaolan wanted to ask if he should come back another day. After all, with so many herbs it would definitely take a long time to refine. But before she could say anything, Qin Feiyong had already disappeared. And Qin Feiyong had a reason for asking Ren Xiaolan to deliver the herbs. Because Ren Xiaolan's cultivation hadn't reached the 9 heavens realm yet, her spirit sense couldn't capture spatial divine items. But the treasure pavilion's steward was different. With his half-step eternal realm cultivation, no spatial divine item could escape his spirit sense. When the time came, If the treasure pavilion steward released his spirit sense on a whim and found that he couldn't find the castle, he would definitely suspect that he had a heavenly domain divine stone. A heavenly domain divine stone was a treasure of heaven and earth. Once the treasure pavilion steward found out, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble. In the castle, Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said, "Fire Lotus, come in and help me." Not long after, Fire Lotus entered the cultivation room. Looking at the Qiankuan bag full of herbs, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Next, Fire Lotus was responsible for helping to organize the herbs. Qin Feiyong focused on refining pills. In the castle, time passed day by day. About half a year later, a whole bag of herbs was finally refined. They were all life divine pills. Qin Feiyong also didn't know how many medicinal pills there were. In any case, he was exhausted. And after refining these herbs, Qin Feiyong took out the 3 6th-grade pill fires and let the nether devil flame fuse with them. Boom! Without any suspense, the nether devil flame directly soared to the 7th-grade divine level pill fire level. Qin Deity, why didn't you fuse them earlier? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Qin Feiyong didn't answer, just smiled faintly. Then, he took out the 7th-grade divine level pill furnace heaven flame divine furnace and tried to refine a life divine pill. In the end, 4 dragon-shaped pill chi were born. See, if I had fused the 3 pill fires earlier, wouldn't the treasure pavilion have benefited? Besides, I don't want people to know that I can refine pills with 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. Qin Feiyong smiled. Fire Lotus nodded in realization and said, "You can refine 4 dragon-shaped pill chi with a 7th-grade divine level pill fire and pill furnace." And Yi Zhong used a 9th-grade divine level pill furnace and pill fire to refine 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. Does this mean that you don't lose to him in alchemy? In the end, Fire Lotus couldn't help laughing. Keep a low profile. Qin Feiyong smiled, put all the pills into the Qiankuan bag, and then left the castle with the Qiankuan ring. Chapter 2556. So fast. Outside, Ren Xiaolan took the Qiankuan pouch from Qin Feiyong's hands. Looking at the medicinal pills inside, she was immediately stunned. How long had it been? He had actually refined all of them. A day outside was equivalent to 100 years in the castle. Qin Feiyong had been refining pills in the castle for half a year, but only a short time had passed outside. So for Ren Xiaolan it was unbelievable. Ahem. Qin Feiyong coughed and smiled. I refined these pills before and prepared them for my own use. Since the treasure pavilion needs them, I'll give them to you first. So that's how it is. Ren Xiaolan nodded in realization. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said, "Go back and report." Okay. Ren Xiaolan nodded, opened the altar and left. After Qin Feiyong watched Ren Xiaolan leave, he entered the castle again and prepared to cultivate. Fire Lotus asked suspiciously, "You're not going back to the Dragon God Palace? Old Zhao and the others are coming back. Why should I go back now? It'll be troublesome if I have to run out again. I'll wait for them here. When they come back, we'll go back to the Dragon God Palace together." After Qin Feiyong said that, he took out the soul stone and sat cross-legged on the ground to refine it. Fire Lotus also walked out and closed the door. She stood in the castle hall and looked around at the cultivation rooms with a smile in her eyes. Fortunately, the time rules of the Black Tortoise world and the castle were the same. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough cultivation rooms for a large group of people. However, to be honest, after so many years, not only Qin Feiyong but even she missed everyone. Outside night fell. Qin Feiyong opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, an image appeared in the void. It was the plains outside in the night. What's the situation? It's already dark. Why haven't they contacted me yet? Qin Feiyong had a trace of suspicion on his face. Lu Jingyang said that he would make arrangements when he returned. There was no need to take so long for such a small matter. Qin Deity. Fire Lotus's voice came from outside. Come in. Qin Feiyong came to his senses and said. Fire Lotus pushed the door open and entered. She looked at the night sky outside and asked suspiciously, "They're not here yet?" "No." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "What happened?" "I've already prepared accommodations for them. Why don't you ask them?" Fire Lotus said. "Residence." Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yeah. So many people can't possibly squeeze into the castle's cultivation room, right? So, I built a dozen more courtyards around the courtyard outside. Fire Lotus smiled. You're really thoughtful. Qin Feiyang smiled and took out an image crystal to send a message to Zhao Tai. However, after waiting for a long time, Zhao Tai did not respond. Qin Feiyang frowned and sent a message to Tang Hai. But in the end there was still no response. Fire Lotus was also a little dazed. Qin Feiyang then sent a message to the Mermaid Princess, Qin Rushuang, Dan Wangkai, Willow Tree Yu Huang, Blood Kirin and the other beasts. But none of them responded to him. This made Qin Feiyang's brows furrow even tighter. Fire Lotus asked, Qin Dage, did something happen? I don't think so. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Everyone followed the ancestor. What accident could there be? Maybe they were delayed by something. Wait a little longer. Outside, another day passed. And in the castle 100 years had passed. However, no one sent a message. Qin Feiyang finally couldn't sit still anymore. He got up and walked out of the cultivation room. Standing in the castle hall, he said, Zhang Dafei, come out for a moment. Soon, Zhang Dafei ran out of a cultivation room and asked, Young master, what's the matter? Qin Feiyang said, Send a message to the Divine General. I have something to ask him. Okay. Zhang Dafei looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and took out the image crystal. This time, Fire Lotus also walked in from outside. Buzz. A moment later, the Divine General's shadow appeared. Greetings, young master. The Divine General bowed. Qin Feiyang said, Help me ask. Before Qin Feiyang could finish, the Divine General smiled and said, Young master, do you want to know about the Mermaid Princess and the others? How do you know? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. I was going to contact you and report this to you. Emperor Qin just sent me a message saying that the Mermaid Princess and the others won't look for you for the time being. The Divine General smiled. Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. They are now at a critical juncture of their seclusion, so it's not good to disturb them. The Divine General said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a faint smile, I thought something happened. How is that possible? Where else is safer than staying with the two sovereigns? The Divine General was speechless. Okay then. Tell them for me that I'll wait for them on the plains outside the Dragon God Mountain. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. The Divine General nodded. When Zhang Dafei turned off the image crystal, the Divine General's face suddenly darkened, and he activated the image crystal again. Buzz. Soon, Qin Baishan's shadow appeared. Emperor Qin. The Divine General bowed respectfully. What's wrong? Qin Batian looked at him suspiciously. The Divine General said in a low voice, Qin Feiyang sent this subordinate a message earlier, asking about the Mermaid Princess and the others. What did you say? Qin Batian was shocked and asked hurriedly. This subordinate told him that everyone is in seclusion, and he believed me. However, he's still waiting outside the Dragon God Mountain. The Divine General said. Qin Batian could not help but frown. My lord, we can only delay for a while. We have to think of a way quickly. You know Qin Feiyang's temper. If he knows about this, I'm afraid he won't let it go. The Divine General said. I know. Try to delay it. I'll think of a way as soon as possible. Qin Batian nodded. Okay. My lord Qin, what do you think Supreme Cloud and the others are thinking? Don't they know Qin Feiyang's temperament? He's amenable to persuasion but not coercion. This will only anger him. The Divine General frowned. Actually, they really don't know Feiyang. With Lu Zhongyang and I around, there's no need to worry about the Mermaid Princess and the others' safety. I'm just worried that this matter will affect the future of the dragon-slaying palace. Qin Batian sighed. The Divine General was also worried when he heard this. Let's leave it at that for now. I hope that Feiyang will enter the Nether King's hell. At least it will give me enough time to resolve this matter. Qin Batian shook his head, and the projection quickly dissipated. Sigh. The Divine General put away the image crystal and sighed. He really did not expect that these two sovereigns had their eyes on the Mermaid Princess and the others for a long time. Inside the ancient castle, out of trust for Qin Batian and Lu Zhongyang, Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus did not suspect anything. Jiang Dafei also went into seclusion in the cultivation room again. Qin Feiyang said a few words to Fire Lotus, then returned to the cultivation room and focused on cultivation. To break through to the Great Divinity stage, one needed to refine 40 billion soul stones. After breaking through to the Great Divinity stage, Qin Feiyang's refining speed increased again. He had calculated carefully. Currently, he could refine about 2,050 soul stones a day. According to the time outside, Qin Feiyang would need to cultivate in seclusion for more than 53,000 years. However, if one day in the ancient castle was 100 years, he would only need about 530 days. 530 days was less than a year and a half. Therefore, he had enough time to break through to the Great Divinity stage before the Nether King's Hell opened. When he entered the Nether King's Hell, he would spend some time to break through to the Consummate Divinity stage. Then, he would be able to take the Yin-Yang Chaos Pill. Now that he could refine the Yin-Yang Chaos Pill with 4 dragon-shaped core energies, his chances of breaking through 2 minor realms had greatly increased. If he was lucky, he would be able to break through to the half-step 9th Heavens realm from the Perfect Divinity stage. As long as he reached the half-step 9th Heavens realm, he would be able to protect himself with the various autark divine arts he possessed, even if he couldn't use any heaven-defying divine artifacts or divine arts. Of course, if his luck was as bad as last time and he only broke through 1 minor realm after taking the Yin-Yang Chaos Pill, he could only blame himself for his bad luck. Time passed quietly just like that. Suddenly one day, Yi Zhong appeared on the first island. "Grandpa." Yi Shuer walked out of the cave and hugged Yi Zhong's arm. She giggled. "Grandpa, how have I been recently?" "Barely." Yi Zhong nodded. Yi Shuer paused, then said unhappily, "I've been cultivating all day, and you call that barely?" Yi Zhong said calmly, "You want Grandpa to praise you but Grandpa won't." Humph! Yi Shuer pouted and snorted unhappily. "Where's Li Bu? That kid is too disrespectful. I came here personally so he should at least come out." Li Zhong lowered his head and looked at Qin Feiyang's cave and raised his eyebrows. "He's not in the cave." Yi Shuer shook her head. "Not in?" Yi Zhong was stunned. "Yes. I don't know where he went, but I saw him sneaking away with Frenzy a while ago," Yi Shuer said. "Sneaking?" Yi Zhong frowned. "They must be up to something." Yi Shuer looked at Yi Zhong suspiciously. "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" "The Nether King's Hell is about to open, so I'm here to see if you're honest." "You're not bad. But Li Bu or no. Shuer, when he comes back, you must keep an eye on him for me, in case he sneaks to the Nether King's Hell," Yi Zhong reminded. Yi Shuer was stunned and smiled. "Grandpa, it seems that you're still quite concerned about him." "Concerned about him? You're thinking too much. I just don't want him to embarrass me in the Nether King's Hell. More importantly, he doesn't know his place at all. He likes to mess around all day long." Yi Zhong snorted coldly. Yes. You're right. Anyway, I know that you have a sharp tongue but a soft heart." Yi Shuer smiled. Yi Zhong smiled awkwardly and said, "All right then, continue to be conscientious. Don't be led astray by Li Bu or—" "Can you stop saying that? I'm not a child." Yi Shuer complained unhappily. "In my eyes you'll always be a child." Yi Zhong rubbed Yi Shuer's head with a loving expression. "He." Yi Shuer smiled and lowered her head, her face full of bliss. Chapter 2557. One day, Qin Feiyang's cultivation finally broke through and stepped into the Great Success stage, one step closer to the 9 Heavens realm. But he didn't come out of seclusion. He looked for Fire Lotus and brought all kinds of medicinal herbs to refine pills, especially Spirit Seed Pill, Divine Power Pill, Divine Soul Pill, Heavenly Dust Divine Pill, Divine Life Pill, and so on. Spirit Seed Pill, Repair Chi Si. Divine Power Pill, Restore Divine Power. Divine Soul Pill, Restore Divine Soul. Divine Life Pill, Heal Injuries. Heavenly Dust Divine Pill, Increase Cultivation. In the Nether King's Hell, these pills were definitely needed the most. Qin Feiyang had refined a lot of them in case of emergencies. For example, he had refined more than 100,000 Divine Life Pills, all of which had 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. Phew! After refining the pills, Qin Feiyang walked out of the castle, looked at the medicinal field outside, and let out a long breath. Alchemy was truly an exhausting task. Right now he especially missed Dan Wangkai. If Dan Wangkai was by his side, he wouldn't need to refine pills himself. But after all these years, how much had Dan Wangkai's mental strength grown? And what level of pills could he refine? Strange. Why haven't they come to find me yet? Qin Feiyang gradually frowned. What were these guys doing? Qindage. At this time, Fire Lotus walked over from afar with a faint smile on her face. Where did you come from? Qin Feiyang looked up and asked with a smile. Divine Treasury. Fire Lotus laughed. Divine Treasury. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, why don't we change the time of the Divine Treasury's opening and open it once every 1,000 years, so that you don't have to run around and cause trouble? What's so troublesome about that? Fire Lotus shook her head and said, Qindage, I've been thinking about a problem during this time. What problem? Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. In the Nether King's Hell, the moment you use a heaven-defying divine weapon, you will be killed by the power of the natural order. Although that ancient castle is sealed, it's still a heaven-defying divine artifact. If you enter the castle and the castle is exposed, will you be killed by the power of laws? Fire Lotus frowned. This? Qin Feiyang lowered his head. He had never thought about this question before. Fire Lotus asked, why don't you consult Yizhong again? Yizhong is against me entering the Infernal King's Hell. If I ask him now, he will definitely suspect that I have other thoughts. Do you think he will still tell me? Qin Feiyang felt helpless. Then let Yi Chang send him a message. Yi Chang is his younger brother. He can't possibly hide it from him. Fire Lotus said. Yeah. Qin Feiyang patted his head, turned around and entered the castle hall. He shouted, Yi Chang, come out. Boom. Very soon, the stone door of a cultivation room opened. Yi Chang walked out in large strides. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation. Hearing this, Yi Chang nodded in realization and took out an image crystal. Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus retreated to the side. Buzz. Not long later, the shadow of a white-haired old man appeared. It was Yizhong. Big brother. Yi Chang smiled. Yizhong looked at the wall behind Yi Chang and asked suspiciously, where are you? Yi Chang said, I'm cultivating in seclusion outside. Yizhong was slightly taken aback and asked in puzzlement, if you're in closed-door cultivation, then go into closed-door cultivation. Why did you run outside? I'm afraid of being disturbed. Yi Chang smiled. You're the Deputy Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall. Who dares to disturb your cultivation? Yizhong shook his head speechlessly and asked, why did you send me a message? Yi Chang said, I want to inquire about the situation in the Infernal King's Hell. Why are you asking about the Infernal King's Hell? Do you want to go in too? Yizhong frowned. How would I dare to go in? I'm just a little curious. Yi Chang was helpless. Really? Don't tell me Li Bu sent you to inquire about it? Yizhong said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He really couldn't hide anything from this old man. Li Bu? Yi Chang pretended to be stunned and asked suspiciously, is he going to the Infernal King's Hell too? He definitely wants to. But I won't allow him to go because no one knows better than me how dangerous the Infernal King's Hell is. With his cultivation level, he'll definitely die if he goes in. Yizhong said. Yi Chang smiled and said, it seems that you're quite concerned about him. Sigh. After all, he saved the old master's life. And he's my disciple. Of course I have to fulfill my duty as a master. Yizhong shook his head and said, tell me, what do you want to know? I heard that Qin Feiyang seems to have a spatial divine item? Yi Chang asked. Yes. His spatial divine item is an ancient castle, and it's a heaven-defying divine weapon. Yizhong nodded. If he enters the Infernal King's Hell and meets you and hides in the castle, won't you be at your wits' end? Yi Chang was surprised. If he hides in the castle outside, I won't be able to do anything. But if he dares to enter the Infernal King's Hell, he'll be digging his own grave. Yizhong sneered. Yi Chang was stunned and asked curiously, brother, what do you mean? There's something you don't know. In the Infernal King's Hell, even a spatial divine item can't be activated, let alone a heaven-defying divine weapon like the castle. Yizhong said. What? A spatial divine item can't be activated? Yi Chang was shocked. Qin Feiyang and Huolian couldn't help but be moved. That's right. A spatial divine item can't be used in the Infernal King's hell. In other words, the people outside can't enter, and the people inside can't come out. This includes his independent small world, Yi Zhong said. There's actually such a thing. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. Yi Cheng was also shocked. He looked at Yi Zhong and said, I didn't expect the Infernal King's hell to be so terrifying. Of course it's terrifying. Otherwise, why would it be called the Infernal King's hell? This is a hellish existence. Yi Zhong said. Yi Cheng asked suspiciously, then why didn't you announce this news to the public? Of course it's to deal with Qin Feiyang. Yi Zhong smiled. Deal with him? Yi Cheng was stunned. That's right. Think about it. If he enters the Infernal King's hell unprepared and suddenly realizes that he can't enter the spatial divine item, what will he do? He will definitely panic. Once a person panics, they will reveal many flaws. The most important thing is, without knowing, he will definitely put a lot of important things in the castle for the time being. For example, pills, soul stones, divine crystals, etc. And in the Infernal King's hell, these things are crucial. It can even be said that without these things, it will be difficult for him to survive in the Infernal King's hell. When he enters and realizes that he can't take these things out of the castle, won't he be desperate? Yi Zhong smiled. I see. Yi Cheng suddenly understood and smiled. Big brother, forgive me for being blunt, but this seems a little despicable. There's no other way. If you want to deal with this kid, you have to be a little despicable. Yi Zhong shook his head, his face full of helplessness. If there was a way, he wouldn't choose to use such a dirty trick. All right then. I wish you success in your mission. I'll continue to cultivate. Yi Cheng smiled. Okay. Yi Zhong nodded. Yi Cheng turned off the image crystal and looked helplessly at Qin Feiyang, saying, It seems that Big Brother is determined to get rid of you this time. Then let's see if his virtue is 1 foot higher or if my devil is 10 feet higher. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Yi Cheng sighed. No matter what, I still hope that you can show mercy. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded. To be honest, he really couldn't bear to kill Yi Zhong. Because this old man, no matter what, was amazing. Take this time for example. If Fire Lotus hadn't thought of this, he would have really entered the Infernal King's hell without any preparation. And as Yi Zhong said, he would also put those pills that he prepared in advance in the castle. Then when he entered the Infernal King's hell, he would really be in a helpless situation. Fortunately, he had checked this point in advance. This allowed him to be sufficiently prepared. Qin not being able to enter the castle and the Black Tortoise world is not a small matter. You have to make arrangements in advance. Fire Lotus asked. There's nothing to arrange. You all cultivate well in the castle and the Black Tortoise world. I will go to the Infernal King's hell alone. Qin Feiyang said. What? You're going alone? Fire Lotus was shocked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. I don't agree. Fire Lotus shook her head. I don't agree either. Yi Cheng also spoke. If he went to the Infernal King's hell alone, then Qin Feiyang would have to face the dragons alone. Wasn't this courting death? Qin Feiyang looked at the attitude of the two and smiled. This matter is not urgent. Wait until the Infernal King's hell opens. This was just a delaying tactic to appease the two. At that time, when the Infernal King's hell opened and he went in alone, Fire Lotus and the others would be helpless. Because without his permission, no one would be able to leave the Black Tortoise world and the castle. Actually, there was a reason for his decision. Although everyone followed him and could take care of each other, because of the power of the rules of the Infernal King's hell, Fire Lotus, Fengdaji, Huai, and the 5-clawed golden dragon all had to suppress their cultivation to the 9-heaven realm. To be honest, if Fire Lotus and the others suppressed their cultivation to the 9-heaven realm, they wouldn't be able to help at all. Not to mention people like Li Changhe and Wang Daoyuan. So since everyone was in danger, he might as well go in alone without any worries and fight with the dragons. However, Fire Lotus and Yi Cheng weren't stupid either. They didn't believe Qin Feiyang's nonsense at all. When Qin Feiyang returned to the cultivation room, the two of them gathered everyone. There was Frenzy, Wang Daoyuan, Li Changhe, Fengdaji, Jiang Dafei, Lei Bing and Wang Qi. There was also the white-eyed wolf, the big black wolf, and the Black Panther brothers. What's wrong? Frenzy looked at Fire Lotus and Yi Chang in confusion. Sigh. Fire Lotus sighed and explained the situation in detail. After hearing it, except for Frenzy and the white-eyed wolf, everyone was unanimously against it. Going to the Infernal King's hell alone? What a joke. Brother Wolf, you have the best relationship with Qindage, why don't you talk to him? Fire Lotus turned to look at the silent white-eyed wolf and said, Don't you know little Qinzi's stubborn temper? Once he makes a decision, even 10 cows can't pull him back. White-eyed wolf pinched his nose and said indifferently. Big black wolf frowned and said, Boss Wolf, why don't you look worried at all? Worried about what? He's not a child. Don't worry about it. Don't disturb my cultivation. That's it. White-eyed wolf waved his paws and returned to the cultivation room. I thought it was something big, but it turned out to be this trivial matter. What a waste of time. Frenzy said indifferently and returned to the cultivation room without looking back. What do these two guys mean? Everyone couldn't help but frown. Looking at the indifferent attitude of Frenzy and white-eyed wolf, they couldn't help but feel angry. Only Fire Lotus looked at the backs of Frenzy and white-eyed wolf thoughtfully. Chapter 2558. In the blink of an eye. There were only 2 days left before the opening of the Nether King's Hell. Ever since returning to the cultivation room, Qin Feiyong had been cultivating. Although there was still a long way to go before he could break through to the perfected Paragon God realm, he could improve as much as he could. Everyone came to find him more than once. But every time, Qin Feiyong would send them away with "We'll talk about it later." At this moment, although there were still 2 days before the opening of the Nether King's Hell, there was already a sea of people outside the plane. Everyone was looking forward to it. These people's cultivation bases were not low, at least above the Paragon God realm. Only a few people were divine lords. As for war gods, none of them were seen. Because in a place like the Nether King's Hell, not to mention war gods and divine lords, even Paragon gods would find it difficult to protect themselves. Although treasures were important, their lives were more important. Therefore, although many people were eager to enter the Nether King's Hell, they knew their limits and were unwilling to take the risk. Dong! This morning, there was a knock on the door. Persuading me again? Qin Feiyong opened his eyes, full of helplessness. He looked at the stone door and said, Come in. The stone door opened. A man and a wolf swaggered into the cultivation room. It was the white-eyed wolf and the madman. The white-eyed wolf's cultivation had already broken through to the perfected Paragon God realm. Because it had been in seclusion all this time. The madman's aura was also close to the perfected Paragon God realm. Rare guest. Qin Feiyong stood up and looked at them. During this time, only the madman and the white-eyed wolf hadn't come to persuade him. The madman closed the stone door and said, Don't misunderstand, we're not here to persuade you. Then why are you here? Qin Feiyong looked at them suspiciously. Hey! The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The madman also smiled but didn't say anything. Looking at the expressions of the man and the wolf, Qin Feiyong seemed to understand what they meant. He shook his head and said no. The white-eyed wolf said, We're not here to discuss it with you. That's right. We're here to officially inform you. Madman nodded. Qin Feiyong could not help feeling a headache as he said, What the hell are you guys thinking? Isn't it good to stay here and cultivate quietly? Of course it's good to stay here and cultivate. 100 years in a day. When you come out of hell, we might have already stepped into the imperishable realm. The white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyong frowned. Then why did you go to hell? I'm here to join in the fun. The white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. Cough cough. Let's be serious. I have to go to the hell of the underworld king. Madman said. Why? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Madman said, Actually, I have heard of the underworld king's hell before. How did you hear about it? Qin Feiyong was bewildered. One had to know. This hell of the underworld king's hell was the secret of the dragons. An old man who once taught me the heaven-defying technique told me. He also said that if there is a chance I must go in, saying that there is some great opportunity. Madman said. It can't be. Don't lie to me. Qin Feiyong frowned. Why would I lie to you? That old man said that the heaven-defying technique that he taught me was obtained from the hell of the underworld king. Madman said unhappily. What old man? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Secret. Madman smiled mysteriously. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes, then looked at the white-eyed wolf and frowned. Then what's your reason? Didn't I just say that I want to join in the fun? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Get lost. Qin Feiyong immediately glared at him. Why would he join in the fun in such a place? The white-eyed wolf said proudly, if you don't let me go, I won't let you go either. Are you threatening me? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and joked. I'm really curious, what are you going to use to stop me? The white-eyed wolf grinned. Qin Feiyong immediately had an ominous premonition. Don't be nervous. I won't do anything to you. At most I'll just let Fire Lotus keep an eye on you. The white-eyed wolf smiled sinisterly. Can you be more shameless? Qin Feiyong's face darkened as he said angrily. Don't use shameless to describe me. I've already turned over a new leaf. Now I'm as innocent as a newborn baby. The white-eyed wolf said. Where's your shame? Qin Feiyong sneered. Madman also looked at the white-eyed wolf with disdain. I'm not joking with you. The white-eyed wolf waved his paws and said. In fact, I entered the hell for a reason. Qin Feiyong said. Don't tell me you already know about the hell. You don't say I really know. The white-eyed wolf said. Do I look like a fool to you? Qin Feiyong said angrily. Who knew the white-eyed wolf's background better than him? How dare he say that he knew about the hell? Was he kidding him? The white-eyed wolf chuckled and said, Little Qin Zi, think about it carefully. Do you really know me? Nonsense. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. They had been together since childhood. How could he not know him? The white-eyed wolf said with a smile, Brother, do you really know me now? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Before becoming a god, I did know you well, but what about after becoming a god? The white-eyed wolf teased. After becoming a god, Qin Feiyong frowned. Thinking about it carefully, this wolf cub seemed to be hiding a lot of secrets after becoming a god. Just like the white-eyed wolf's current appearance. It had golden fur all over its body. His eyeballs seemed to be cast in gold foil. And on his back there were two small golden wings. What puzzled him the most was the pattern between the white-eyed wolf's eyebrows. The pattern was blood red in color, resembling the wings of a fiery phoenix. It gave off a mysterious feeling. Qin Feiyong had asked about these changes before, but the white-eyed wolf had always been mysterious. In short, I'm like a madman. I have to go to the hell. The white-eyed wolf said. Okay, you are all my masters. You can do whatever you want. Qin Feiyong said helplessly. Then let's discuss what should we prepare. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. I've already prepared the pills. Even if the two of you go together, it's enough. Now we only lack the soul stones and divine crystals. But the fire lotus is guarding the medicine field every day. These soul stones and divine crystals are really not easy to deal with. Qin Feiyong rubbed his head. The white-eyed wolf said, Isn't that simple? Brother and Madman will send her away. Bang! But at this moment, the stone door was kicked open. The two men and one wolf hurriedly looked over and saw Fire Lotus walking in angrily, saying angrily, You guys are really something, joining hands to scheme against me. The two men and one wolf were a little embarrassed. Enough. I know your temper. It's useless even if I keep an eye on you. I'll go prepare the soul stones and divine crystals for you later, but you have to promise that you must survive. Fire Lotus said helplessly. Of course. Qin Feiyong laughed. Fire Lotus rolled her eyes and asked, Then what about Zhang Dafei, Lei Bing and Wang Qi? They are all city lords now, so they can't stay in the Black Tortoise realm forever. Qin Feiyong was startled and said, Then have their cultivations broken through? Zhang Dafei has already broken through a long time ago. As for Lei Bing and Wang Qi, they are still a little short. It should only be a few decades. Fire Lotus said. A few decades doesn't matter. Anyway, there are still 2 days. 2 days outside is 200 years in the ancient castle. It's enough for them to break through. When they break through, remember to help them open the door to their potential. Qin Feiyong said. I know. Fire Lotus nodded and said. There's also Hua Yi and the 5-clawed golden dragon. Call them back as well. I'll send a message to them later. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right then. Fire Lotus looked helplessly at the two men and the wolf, then turned and walked out. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "Fortunately, this girl is easy to talk to, otherwise I really don't know how to persuade her." After saying that, he took out the image crystal. Wang. Not long later, Hui's shadow appeared. Qin Feiyang asked, "Where?" "In the south with Xiaojin." Hui said, "What are you doing in the south?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "You don't know, the identity of the young lord in the south is too mysterious. We still haven't investigated his identity." Hui said, "It can't be." Qin Feiyang was stunned. "I'm not joking with you. Even now I haven't seen him. It's as if this person doesn't exist at all." Hui said, "So mysterious?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "However, we have investigated Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan very clearly. This time, they will also use the identity of a disciple of the Dragon God Palace to enter the Underworld King's Hell." Hui said, "They are also disciples of the Dragon God Palace?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes. The two of them have already entered the Dragon God Palace in the east and west." Hui nodded. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and said, "Then you guys come back first and meet at Black Tortoise Mountain." "Okay." Hui responded and turned off the image crystal. Even Hui and the five-clawed golden dragon can't find out the identity of this person? Why do I feel that he is even more mysterious than us? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and the madman in disbelief. "This person is the representative of the old ancestor. You don't have to worry too much about him. As for Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan, I was worried that I wouldn't have a chance to deal with them. I didn't expect that they would take the initiative to come to me." Qin Feiyang sneered. "Haha. At that time you don't even need to do anything. This brother will help you deal with them." The white-eyed wolf laughed wildly. "You?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "What?" "Looking down on this brother. Let me tell you, little Qin Zi. If I don't open the slaughter domain, you may not be my opponent." The white-eyed wolf said proudly. "Really?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Nonsense. When has this brother ever lied to you?" The white-eyed wolf glared at him. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf with a face full of surprise. With such confidence, it seemed that when this fellow became a god, he might have really obtained some kind of great fortune. The white-eyed wolf urged, "Hurry up, refine a yin and yang chaos pill. This brother wants to break through to the half-step ninth heaven realm." Break through to the half-step ninth heaven realm? Qin Feiyang was stunned, but then he thought of the white-eyed wolf's current cultivation and understood. This fellow had already broken through to the perfection stage, and could indeed break through to the half-step ninth heaven realm. However, whether or not he could successfully break through to the half-step ninth heaven realm would depend on his luck. "Don't worry. Brother's luck is definitely not a problem," the white-eyed wolf clamored. "Arrogant? If you don't succeed later, I'll see how you cry." Qin Feiyang snorted coldly, then left the castle and entered the medicinal field. Chapter 2559. After finding a set of herbs for the yin-yang chaos pill, Qin Feiyang prepared to return to the castle, but he suddenly stopped. After entering the Nether King's Hell, he could no longer enter the castle and the Black Tortoise world. Then he and Frenzied would have to prepare the yin-yang chaos pill and Supreme Nirvana pill in advance. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang entered the medicinal field again and found a dozen sets of herbs before returning to the castle. He and Frenzied naturally didn't need so much, but it was better to be prepared. Whoosh! A moment later, yin-yang chaos pill was produced. The white-eyed wolf anxiously ran up, grabbed the pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Qin Feiyang retreated to the side and glanced at Frenzied. "Do you think it will be as lucky as last time?" "Last time?" Frenzied was taken aback and rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. "I wasn't there last time, okay? But I heard Big Black Wolf and the others talk about that matter. Maybe the white-eyed wolf's character is really better than yours." "Not necessarily," Qin Feiyang said. "Besides, there are 4 dragon-shaped core chi now. With a 40% success rate, as long as it isn't too unlucky, it shouldn't be a problem," Frenzied said. Boom! While they were talking, the white-eyed wolf's aura soared. In less than 10 breaths, it forcefully broke through to the perfection paragon. But it didn't stop. Its aura was still soaring. Boom! Suddenly, a muffled sound exploded in the white-eyed wolf's body. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. This guy was really lucky, successfully breaking through 2 small realms again. Sometimes you really have to believe in a person's character. The white-eyed wolf withdrew his aura. He looked at Qin Feiyang and laughed complacently. Then, he rushed out of the cultivation room like a wisp of smoke and shouted, "Huolian, quickly come and help this brother open the door of potential." Not bad. Before entering the Nether King's hell, break through to the half-step 9th heaven realm. In the future, we have to curry favor with it, lest it abandons us in the Nether King's hell, Frenzied said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. Indeed, if the Nether King's hell couldn't activate the heaven-defying divine arts, then the heaven-defying divine arts he and the mad scientist had were useless. Even a half-step 9 heavens realm cultivator was enough to take their lives. Therefore, the fact that the white-eyed wolf had broken through to the half-step 9th heavens realm was a timely help to them. However, with the white-eyed wolf's shameless personality, he would definitely torment them on purpose once they entered Hades' hell. While there's still time, I'll go into seclusion and cultivate for a while. Remember to call me when the time comes, Madman said. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. After the madman left, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and an image appeared in the air. The screen showed the scene of the plains outside. Looking at the endless sea of people, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head. So many people rushed in one after another, but in the end, how many people would be able to come out alive? After dispelling the image, Qin Feiyang drove the ancient castle away from the plains and appeared in a secluded place. He then activated the altar and rushed towards Black Tortoise Mountain. Black Tortoise Mountain. It was incomparably quiet. When Qin Feiyang rushed over, Hui and the 5-clawed golden dragon were already waiting. Hui asked, "Are you really going to Hades' hell?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and laughed. "You guys don't have to join in the fun. I hope that when I come out of Hades' hell, you guys will have already broken through to the small success stage of the immortal realm." "What do you mean?" Hui was suspicious. "To tell you the truth, after entering Hades' hell, I won't be able to enter the ancient castle in Black Tortoise World, and you guys won't be able to come out of the ancient castle in Black Tortoise World," Qin Feiyang said. "So it's like that?" Hui nodded in realization and then hurriedly said, "Wait, then aren't you alone?" Qin Feiyang laughed. "I'm not alone, there's still the madman and the white-eyed wolf." "Madman," Hui muttered and sent a sound transmission. "Madman can indeed make a trip to Hades' hell. This child's talent is extraordinary. If he is tempered, he will definitely become a great person." Qin Feiyang nodded. When the 5-clawed golden dragon heard this, he gave Hui a look and said, "Then let's not go to Black Tortoise World and the ancient castle." Hui was slightly stunned, but he immediately understood and nodded with a smile. Yes, it's boring to cultivate all day, that. Qin Feiyang, lend us your spacetime gate." "What for?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them suspiciously. "Don't worry about it," Hui said. "Are you sure you don't want to go to Black Tortoise World and the ancient castle? You have to know that Feng Daji and Fire Lotus will be staying there. When they come out of Hades' hell, their cultivation will definitely surpass yours," Qin Feiyang said. When the two of them heard this, they began to hesitate. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and asked tentatively, "Do you want to go to Eastern Tomb's Heaven Immortal Tower?" Cough cough. The two of them immediately coughed, and their expressions were a little awkward. "You guys." Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly, took out the spacetime gate and said, "Take it, but you have to come back after midnight. I don't object to drinking, but you can't neglect your cultivation." "All right." The 5-clawed golden dragon nodded repeatedly. Hui also chuckled, grabbed the spacetime gate and quickly opened it, then ran in with the 5-clawed golden dragon. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. These two fellows were really a match made in heaven. Then, Qin Feiyang also entered the ancient castle and continued to cultivate. But suddenly, he frowned. What was going on with Zhao Tailai and the others? Why hadn't they come looking for him yet? He took out the image crystal again and sent a message to everyone. But just like last time, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. Qin Feiyong was not in the mood to cultivate for a moment. Sitting in front of the desk, he couldn't help but feel upset. Qin Deity, these are the soul stones and divine crystals I prepared for you. There are tens of trillions of soul stones. As for divine crystals, I have also prepared trillions. It should be enough for you. After a while, Fire Lotus came in with dozens of interspatial rings. Qin Feiyong nodded. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was absent-minded, Fire Lotus put the interspatial rings on the table and asked suspiciously, "What's the matter? What do you think is going on with old Zhao and the others? Even if they are in closed-door cultivation, it shouldn't take so long, right? Let's talk about it later." With so many people, it's impossible that they are all at the critical moment of closed-door cultivation. Qin Feiyong frowned. Fire Lotus was stunned and nodded. After hearing what you said, it's a little strange. It's too much of a coincidence that they are all at the critical moment of closed-door cultivation. Fire Lotus, do you think this divine general is hiding something from me? Qin Feiyong looked up at Fire Lotus and asked. I don't know. Fire Lotus shook her head and said, do you want me to call Zhang Dafei and ask him again? Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. Fire Lotus turned and walked out. After a while, she came back with Zhang Dafei. Did you break through? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. Yes. Zhang Dafei nodded and said with a smile, it's all thanks to this time formation. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would take for me to break through. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, send another message to the Divine General. I want to ask him something. Okay. Zhang Dafei took out an image crystal. Buzz. The Divine General's image soon appeared and said with a smile, young lord, what can I do for you? Don't play dumb with me. Mermaid Princess and the others are still in closed-door cultivation. Qin Feiyong asked. Why are you in such a hurry? They will come to you when they are out. The Divine General said. Qin Feiyong stared at the Divine General and asked, are you sure you have nothing to hide from me? The Divine General panicked, but he immediately calmed down and said with a wry smile, if it were someone else, I might have the guts, but I don't dare to do that to you, young lord. You better not. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Help me hurry them up. The Hell of the Underworld King is about to open. They have to come here before the Hell of the Underworld King opens. Qin Feiyong said. The Divine General's expression stiffened and he said with a smile, young lord, forgive me for being blunt. If you are determined to go to the Nether King's Hell, I personally think that the Mermaid Princess and the others should stay in the Dragon Slayer Palace for the time being. Why? Qin Feiyong frowned. Because it's safe. If you go to the Nether King's Hell, what if something happens to you? Won't they be implicated? The Divine General said. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He looked at Fire Lotus and said, that makes sense. Fire Lotus nodded. Don't worry. They will stay in the Dragon Slayer Palace with the protection of 2 sovereigns. It's safer than anywhere else. The Divine General smiled. All right then. Qin Feiyong nodded. The Divine General said, I still have something to do. That's all for now? Okay. Qin Feiyong said. After the Divine General turned off the image crystal, he couldn't help but heave a long sigh of relief. He had finally fooled them. However, this wasn't a long-term solution, because paper couldn't be kept secret. Sooner or later, Qin Feiyong would find out. In the ancient castle. Ancestor definitely wouldn't lie to me. Zhang Dafei, continue to cultivate. When the Nether King's Hell opens, you Leibing and Wang Qi will return to your posts. During my absence, you must control the situation in the north. Qin Feiyong instructed. Understood. Zhang Dafei replied respectfully. Oh right. There's one more thing. Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan will also enter the Nether King's Hell. At that time, you should secretly contact the people from the east and west regions. I want all of these people to be my subordinates. Qin Feiyong said. What? Zhang Dafei was shocked and hurriedly said. Young master, you're crossing the line. The first ones to cross the line are Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan. As for the list of people from the east and west regions, you should go to the Divine General. Qin Feiyong said. Zhang Dafei couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that what Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan had done had angered the young master. Okay, we'll definitely complete the task. Zhang Dafei replied respectfully. Complete the task and I'll reward you handsomely, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Thank you, young master. Zhang Dafei wasn't afraid of other things. He was only afraid that this would anger the sovereigns behind Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan. The anger of two sovereigns was no joke. However, the young master didn't seem to care. Go. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. This subordinate will take his leave. Zhang Dafei bowed respectfully and turned to leave. Qin Feiyang also stood up and looked at Fire Lotus with a smile. Girl, I'll have to trouble you with the Black Tortoise world in the future. You can go and explore in peace. You don't have to worry about the Black Tortoise world. Fire Lotus said. It's good to have you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Fire Lotus's cheeks reddened. Buzz. This time, Qin Feiyang's image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang was stunned and then took out the image crystal. Immediately, four familiar silhouettes appeared. Qin Feiyang looked at the four people in shock. Surprised. We actually took the initiative to send you a message. One of them laughed. It's quite surprising. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and asked, how's it going? Are you doing well in the Dragon Slayer Palace? These four people were the demon ancestor, Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, and Dong Zhongyang. Chapter 2560. Of course it's not bad. You don't have to care about anything. Just focus on cultivation and endless resources. Are you envious of us? As a descendant of Qin Badian, you still have to fight for yourself? Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang proudly. I'm sorry. I'm a person who doesn't like to reap without sowing. You can only have a clear conscience if you work hard to get it. If you sent me a message to show off to me, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, Qin Feiyang said lightly. Ha, Mu Tianyang laughed and said. After so many years, you're still so arrogant. After so many years, aren't you still the same? Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Do you have to be stubborn to the end? Mu Tianyang's face darkened. Am I? Qin Feiyang was a little innocent and said with a smile, I'm just telling the truth. Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes. The demon ancestor looked at the two of them and said helplessly, after so many years, can't you two talk calmly? Is there any meaning in this? Not interested. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I'm not interested either. Mu Tianyang pursed his lips and said with a teasing smile, but there's something you'll definitely be interested in. Is that so? Qin Feiyang didn't think much of it. The demon ancestor said, on this matter, Mu Tianyang really didn't lie to you. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a frown, don't tell me you guys want to go to hell too? No. We're not interested in hell. Dong Zhongyang waved his hand. Then what is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It's about the mermaid princess and the other's current situation. The demon ancestor said. Qin Feiyang was bewildered. Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang told us not to tell you about this matter. But we thought about it and felt that it was unfair to you, so we decided to send you a message, said the fiend ancestor. What's going on? Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He didn't expect that the ancestors and old ancestor were really hiding something from him. The last time Lu Zhongyang came to see you, didn't you agree to let the mermaid princess and the others return to your side? Ancestor fiend asked. That's right. I believe that all of you should already know that the Black Tortoise world and the ancient castle's current time rules. Staying in the dragon-slaying palace will only delay their future. Qin Feiyang said. 100 years in a day. We really want to go too. How about it? Can you give us a chance? Mu Tianyang smiled. Qin Feiyang coldly looked at him. He continued to look at Demon Alpha. This matter started from the time when it happened in the plains. At that time, the dragon's princess and the black dragons pretended to be Lin Yi and her disciple to lure you there. But in the end, they suffered a great loss in the hands of Yu and Hua Yi. Not only were the bodies of the black dragons and the other three destroyed, but even the sunset divine bow and the other 4 heaven-defying divine artifacts fell into your hands. This is naturally a great joy for Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang. But for the other 2 sovereigns, this is undoubtedly a wake-up call. Your rise can no longer be stopped. You should already know the situation of the dragon-slaying palace. The 4 sovereigns are divided into 2 factions. The 2 factions have always been in a state of balance. However, your rise has undoubtedly broken this balance. Therefore, not only do the dragons regard you as their confidant, but the other 2 sovereigns also feel a strong threat from you. Ancestor Fiend sighed. I already expected this to happen. Qin Feiyang nodded. We also know that with your brain you must have expected it. But there are some things that you can't stop. After the other 2 sovereigns felt the threat from you, they began to plan how to get rid of you. However, with Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, they won't really do anything to you, so they thought of a compromise to weaken your strength. Ancestor Fiend said. Weaken my strength? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Yes. What really scared them was the kill formula. The Sunset Divine Bow and the other 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts. But the kill formula is your own divine art. It's inconvenient for them to snatch it. So they targeted the Sunset Divine Bow and the other 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts. As long as they can get these 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts from you, your strength will be greatly weakened. Ancestor Fiend said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang vaguely had an answer in his heart. He said, they want to use the Mermaid Princess and the others to get me to hand over the 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts? That's right. They had this plan a long time ago, so they have been secretly monitoring the Mermaid Princess and the others, because they all know that you care about them. Only they can make you hesitate, so the 2 sovereigns will definitely not let them return to you easily. Just when Lu Zhengyang returned to the dragon-slaying palace and found them, these people finally took action. Ancestor Fiend sighed. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands and asked, what happened to them? Don't worry about that. With Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, even if they took action, they wouldn't dare to really hurt the Mermaid Princess and the others. They just imprisoned them and negotiated with Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang. Give them the 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts in exchange for the freedom of the Mermaid Princess and the others. Otherwise, they will be imprisoned forever. Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang have been negotiating with the other 2 sovereigns for the past 2 years. But these 2 sovereigns have never relented. It seems that they are determined to drag this out with us. Ancestor Fiend said. These damn things. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands tightly, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Don't blame Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang for this. They only knew about it when the 2 sovereigns took action. You know Qin Badian's character. He always looks at the big picture, so he didn't tell you. And he also knows your temper. Once you know about this, you will definitely make a scene. Ancestor Fiend said. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, where is the dragon-slaying palace? Ancestor Fiend and the others looked at each other and shook their heads with bitter smiles. Sure enough, this matter couldn't be known to Qin Feiyang. Tell me the location of the dragon-slaying palace, and I will let you enter the castle to cultivate. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang's heart skipped a beat. He turned to look at Ancestor Fiend and Dong Zhengyang. Your offer is really tempting, but we can't tell you the location of the dragon-slaying palace. Because once you break into the dragon-slaying palace and have a falling out with the 2 sovereigns, you will definitely alarm the dragons. In this way, Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang's efforts over the years may be destroyed. Ancestor Fiend shook his head. You have really become a nice guy. Mu Tianyang stared at Ancestor Fiend with dissatisfaction. We can't ruin the big picture. Ancestor Fiend smiled faintly. After pondering for a while, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, however, I can tell you the identities of the other 2 sovereigns. Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, and Dong Zhengyang looked at Ancestor Fiend in shock. Didn't he just say that they couldn't ruin the big picture? Why did he tell Qin Feiyang the identities of the other 2 sovereigns in the blink of an eye? One had to know. The identities of these 2 sovereigns were more important than the location of the dragon-slaying palace. Tell me. Qin Feiyang stared at Ancestor Fiend. Ancestor Fiend smiled and said, then, does your offer still count? Yes. As long as you tell me, I will immediately give you my current coordinates. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ancestor Fiend said, you have already met one of these 2 sovereigns. Met him? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Ancestor Fiend nodded. Qin Feiyang frowned. He had actually met him? The strength of the 4 sovereigns of the dragon-slaying palace was about the same as Ancestor Dragon. In his impression, there seemed to be no one else other than Yi Zhong. Could it be Yi Zhong? Qin Feiyong was surprised. But as soon as he said that, he began to regret it. If it was really Yi Zhong, then why did the ancestor give him the task to persuade Yi Zhong to join the dragon-slaying palace? Obviously, this person was not Yi Zhong. How could it be Yi Zhong? Ancestor Fiend smiled. Qin Feiyong frowned. If it was not Yi Zhong, then who else could be compared to Ancestor Dragon? Wait, could it be him? The figure of a young man in a fiery robe appeared in Qin Feiyong's mind. The Beast Emperor of the Internal Sea. This person's cultivation was similar to Yi Zhong's, similar to Ancestor Dragon's. Moreover, the task given to him by the ancestor was only to persuade Yi Zhong to join the dragon-slaying palace, but not to persuade the Beast Emperor to join the dragon-slaying palace. From this it could be seen. One of the 4 sovereigns of the dragon-slaying palace should be this Beast Emperor. It seems that you have already thought of it. That's right. This sovereign hidden in the dark is the Beast Emperor who rules the Internal Sea. Ancestor Fiend said. Qin Feiyong asked, what about the other one? Ancestor Fiend smiled faintly. You may be unfamiliar with the other one, the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. So it's him. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. Ancestor Fiend said, don't underestimate her. She is still a woman. Whether she is a man or a woman, if she provokes me, she will become a dead person. Qin Feiyong sneered. Haha, domineering. Ancestor Fiend laughed loudly. I mean what I say. Right now, I am at the Black Tortoise Mountain outside the Holy Dragon City. Come and meet me. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he gave the 4 of them the coordinates. Ancestor Fiend smiled and said, all right, we will go right away. Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and asked, so fast? Aren't you going to tell the ancestors? Is there a need for that? Ancestor Fiend smiled slightly, and the shadows of the 4 people dissipated. Qin Feiyong also put away the image crystal, looked up at Fire Lotus and asked, what do you think of this? Fire Lotus shook her head and said, Ancestor Fiend has no need to lie to you about this. That's what I think too. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then what do you plan to do? Fire Lotus asked. Since they have done something wrong, they naturally have to pay the price. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly. Fire Lotus smiled. No matter what Qin Feiyong did, she would support him unconditionally. Qin Feiyong said, go clear a few courtyards and settle them down later. Okay. Speaking of which, it is also a great thing for us that these people have come to our side. Fire Lotus smiled. Indeed. Not to mention the Ancestor Fiend and Mu Qianyang's heaven-defying artifacts. Even Mu Qing's all-seeing eye will be of great help to us. If Dong Zhengyang's Eye of Destiny can be opened, he will be invincible. Qin Feiyong said. Fire Lotus nodded. Chapter 2561. Qin Feiyong left the castle. After waiting for a while, the demon ancestor and the others arrived at Black Tortoise Mountain. You're here to welcome us personally. Mu Tianyang laughed. Are you trying to make your presence known all the time? Are you afraid that others won't notice you? Qin Feiyong frowned. Mu Tianyang's expression froze. What's wrong with this person? Did he eat gunpowder? He's insulting me the moment he sees me. Let me tell you, I can send you to the Black Tortoise world. But remember, if anyone dares to act recklessly, don't blame me for being ruthless. Qin Feiyong looked at the 4 of them and said. The demon ancestor smiled faintly. Don't worry about that. We're here purely to cultivate. That's good. Qin Feiyong nodded and asked suspiciously. Did you bring the heaven-defying artifacts? Of course. How can we be at ease letting them stay in the dragon-slaying palace? The demon ancestor said. All right then. Qin Feiyong nodded and prepared to send the 4 of them to the Black Tortoise world. Wait a moment. The demon ancestor waved his hand and asked, how do you plan to solve this matter? Although I don't advocate violence, sometimes violence is the best way to solve a problem. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. The 4 of them looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. It was indeed this guy's style. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and sent the 4 of them to the Black Tortoise world. Then, He flew to the top of a mountain and looked in the direction of the inland sea. Time passed by breath. After dawn, clang! In the sky, with a loud sound, a stone door opened. Two silhouettes walked out cheerfully. It was Hua Yi and the five-clawed golden dragon. When they saw Qin Feiyang standing at the top of the mountain, the two of them couldn't help but be startled. Hua Yi kept the spatial gate and landed beside Qin Feiyang. He asked suspiciously, "Why are you standing here alone?" "You're back." Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and looked at the two of them. "What's the situation? The opening of the space-time gate caused such a huge commotion, yet you didn't notice it." Hua Yi and the five-clawed golden dragon looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Why did it feel like this person had a lot on his mind? "How much celestial immortal wine did you make?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "Almost emptied the wine cellar of the Heaven Immortal Tower." Hua Yi chuckled. Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly. These two were really drunkards. "You look so absent-minded. Did something happen?" Hua Yi looked at him suspiciously. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. She briefly described the situation of the mermaid princess and the others. Bastard! He had heard of it. Hua Yi was also furious. He was a famous emperor of the dragon-slaying palace, yet he had done such a shameless thing. The five-clawed golden dragon also shook his head. He was quite familiar with the Beast Emperor. However, he never expected that the Beast Emperor was one of the four emperors of the dragon-slaying palace. Qin Feiyang took the face-restoring pill and recovered his true appearance. He smiled and said, "Let's go to the inland sea. Don't be impulsive." Although the Beast Emperor is the emperor of the dragon-slaying palace, the dragons don't know that. If you attack the Beast Emperor, the dragons will definitely not sit back and watch. But if you reveal the Beast Emperor's identity, it will definitely affect the dragon-slaying palace. The dragon-slaying palace was founded by Qin Batian and Lu Zhongyang. I don't know how much effort they have put in. You can't destroy their efforts. Hua Yi hurriedly said. "I know. But if I don't vent my anger, I will feel uncomfortable." Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, opened an altar and directly stepped on it. Hua Yi smiled helplessly and recovered his true appearance. As for the five-clawed golden dragon, he changed his appearance slightly and put on a mask. The inland sea. In the battle back then, the inland sea was destroyed. Not even a drop of seawater was left. But now, the dry inland sea was filled with seawater again. There were also countless sea beasts. These seawater and sea beasts were all transferred from the North Sea and the other four seas. The sovereign divine realm had also disappeared. Qin Feiyang and the other two stood on the shore. The waves surged one after another, hitting the shore with deafening sounds. "Have you really thought about it?" Hua Yi asked. "There's nothing to think about?" Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, the sunset divine bow and the other 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts appeared. "Why did you come to the inland sea again?" The sunset divine bow's artifact spirit was shocked. Qin Feiyang didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Are there any restrictions when the sovereign divine realm opens?" "There are restrictions. It can only be opened once every 10 years. Each time it can last for half a year." The artifact spirit said, "It hasn't been 10 years since the last time. In other words, we just have to be careful of the sovereign divine weapon." Qin Feiyang whispered, "What are you trying to do?" The artifact spirit was suspicious. The 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts didn't know what had happened in the dragon-slaying palace. "Kill the Beast Emperor," Qin Feiyang said word by word. The five-clawed golden dragon sighed and said, "I know where the Beast Emperor lives. Come with me." Whoosh! Immediately, Qin Feiyang, Hua Yi, and the 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts followed the five-clawed golden dragon and flew toward the depths of the inland sea. It's Qin Feiyang, Hua Yi, and the 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts. What are they doing in the inland sea? When the sea beasts in the inland sea saw Qin Feiyang and the others, their expressions changed drastically. Although they had migrated here from the four seas, they had long been aware of everything that had happened in the inland sea. These people were demons that couldn't be provoked. The Beast Emperor is not far from the Divine Dragon Island. We have to end this quickly, the five-clawed golden dragon warned. About half an hour later, a palace surrounded by flames was suspended in the air above the sea. One could feel a terrifying divine power from afar. That palace was a legendary divine artifact. That's the Beast Emperor's palace. The five-clawed golden dragon pointed at the palace and said. Qin Feiyong's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he shouted, "Sunset Divine Bow, destroy it!" Boom! The Sunset Divine Bow immediately released a world-destroying aura, followed by the appearance of an arrow, which rushed madly toward the palace. Inside the palace, a young man in a fiery robe was sitting on a chair with his eyes closed to recuperate. Just as the Sunset Divine Bow was released, the young man in a fiery robe suddenly opened his eyes and rushed out of the palace without hesitation. Boom! Just as the young man in a fiery robe left, the arrow bombarded the palace. Accompanied by an earth-shaking explosion, the palace was reduced to ashes on the spot. The young man in a fiery robe looked at the shattered palace and his face sank. He then looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and frowned. "What are you doing? Don't you know what I want to do? Before the dragons come, I'll kindly advise you to keep a low profile, and don't do anything that brings about your own destruction." "Kill him!" Qin Feiyong shouted. The young man in a fiery robe's pupils contracted. What did that mean? Could it be that this kid already knew his identity? Clang! But he didn't have time to think about it. The Sunset Divine Bow and the other divine artifacts were already rushing toward him. The young man in a fiery robe looked rather flustered. You have to know. These were the 10 great divine artifacts. Even with his cultivation, he would only lose his life. Stop it for this sovereign. But suddenly, a cold shout sounded. Then, a terrifying dragon aura surged toward them. Qin Feiyong raised his head to look and saw a hazy silhouette flying towards him at lightning speed. It was none other than Long Zun. But Qin Feiyong didn't stop him. The 10 great divine artifacts didn't stop and attacked the young man in a fiery robe. With a painful scream, the body of the young man in a fiery robe was immediately shattered in the void. Even his divine soul had been torn apart. That divine soul turned out to be a Qilin. In other words, the true body of the young man in a fiery robe was a fire Qilin. And next to the divine soul, there was a black ancient mirror suspended in the air. Fire Qilin. Hui was stunned. His aura is very unfamiliar to me. It should have nothing to do with the fire Qilin that I know. Qin Feiyong shook his head and looked at the black ancient mirror. That's his supreme artifact. The 5-clawed golden dragon transmitted its voice. Supreme artifact. Hui's spirit shook and instantly rushed to the front of the divine soul, grabbing the black ancient mirror and the fiery robe young man's divine soul. I know you must be like the other great ancestral dragons, splitting your divine soul in advance. I can't kill you, but it's good to collect some interest. Hui chuckled and suddenly clenched his 5 fingers. The divine soul was immediately annihilated, but the black ancient mirror in his hand was still struggling. Obviously, as Hui expected, the Beast Emperor didn't die. At this moment, it was activating the black ancient mirror, trying to break free from Hui's clutches. But Hui held it firmly and turned to the side of the Sunset God Bow. Without waiting for Hui to speak, the Sunset God Bow released a wisp of divine sense and directly erased the blood contract of the black ancient mirror. Damn it! A roar suddenly sounded from the depths of Divine Dragon Island. The owner of this voice was the young man in a fiery robe. Let's go. Qin Feiyong glanced at Long Zun, then took Hui the 5-clawed golden dragon, and the 10 heaven-defying artifacts and turned to leave. Swish! Long Zun's speed was extremely fast, and in a few flashes he was in front of them. Qin Feiyong said expressionlessly, "This time I'm not targeting you dragons. I'm here for the Internal Sea's Beast Emperor. Please step aside. The Beast Emperor belongs to us dragons. If you target him, isn't that the same as targeting us dragons?" Long Zun shouted. "Then what do you want?" Qin Feiyong said indifferently. "The Internal Sea is not a place where you can come and go as you please." After Long Zun finished speaking, a terrifying aura slowly spread out. The sovereign divine domain can only be opened once every 10 years. Are you sure you want to start a war with me now? Qin Feiyong sneered. Long Zun's eyes sank, and he couldn't help but hesitate. Indeed, starting a war at this time wouldn't benefit the dragons. Because if the sunset god Bao and the other heaven-defying artifacts were unsealed and fully awakened, Divine Dragon Island would be the first to bear the brunt. Just as Long Zun was hesitating, Qin Feiyong's group of 3 and the 10 heaven-defying artifacts walked past Long Zun. Actually, you don't have to be so conflicted. Isn't the Nether King's hell about to open? Don't worry, I will definitely go. At that time, we will settle this once and for all in the Nether King's hell, Qin Feiyong said without turning his head. You? Long Zun looked at Qin Feiyong's back in bewilderment. Are you wondering how I found out about your scheme? This kind of thing, it's easy to figure it out. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he quickly disappeared at the end of the sea. All right. As you wish, we will settle this once and for all in the Nether King's hell, Long Zun whispered, then turned and left. Chapter 2563. Dragon God Mountain Range. Under the night sky, the mountains and rivers were dead silent. Qin Feiyong and the others flew out of the inland sea and stood above a mountain ridge. What's next? The 5-clawed golden dragon asked. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and Feng Deji appeared. After all these years, Feng Deji's body had already been rebuilt, and he was still trying to reach the initial imperishable realm, because he knew that Qin Feiyong's enemies would become more and more terrifying. A half-step imperishable realm cultivator would not be able to stand out in the near future, so if he didn't want to be eliminated, he had to work hard to become stronger. But this was only his one-sided thought. In fact, for Qin Feiyong, strength was not important. What was important was loyalty. As long as one was loyal, no matter who it was, he would not abandon them. Qin Feiyong looked at Feng Deji and said, You take 2 heaven-defying divine artifacts to the west. Hui, you and Little Gold go to the south and east respectively. Just in case, each of you take a heaven-defying divine artifact. Your target is the treasure pavilions in the south, west, and east. Destroy as many as you can as quickly as possible. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. Haha, interesting. Hui and the 5-clawed golden dragon suddenly laughed. Qin Feiyong said, Before dawn, come to the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City and find me. No problem. The 5-clawed golden dragon nodded and looked at Feng Deji. Do you know the coordinates of the west? Of course. Feng Deji smiled. As a half-step imperishable realm expert, what place in the divine land had he not been to? He did not know the 4 major divisions like the back of his hand, but he also knew the distribution of the major cities. Let's go, Qin Feiyong said. Then do you want to take some treasures back? Hui smiled. Up to you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Haha. Hui laughed, grabbed the golden sword, and opened the altar to leave. The 5-clawed golden dragon glanced at the remaining 9 divine weapons. Finally, his eyes locked onto the blood-red dagger. He smiled sinisterly and said, I like you better. I also admire you. The artifact spirit grinned ferociously. The 5-clawed golden dragon grabbed the crimson dagger and started to leave the altar. Feng Deji looked at the bronze halberd and the black iron fan. He cupped his hands and said, Please take care of me. With a clanging sound, the 2 heaven-defying divine weapons disappeared into Feng Deji's chi. Young master, let's go. Feng Deji looked at Qin Feiyong and said. Qin Feiyong said, Do you know why I gave you 2 heaven-defying divine tools? I know. It's because my cultivation is weaker than Hui and the 5-clawed golden dragon. Feng Deji said. Not bad. So you have to be careful. It's best if the treasure pavilion can be destroyed, but if not, don't force it. Your own life is the most important thing. If it reaches a point of no return, there's no harm in unlocking the seal on the heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyong said. Yes. Feng Deji respectfully replied. This subordinate will definitely not disappoint young master's expectations. With that, Feng Deji also opened an altar and disappeared from Qin Feiyong's sight. What about us? The Sunset Divine Bao's artifact spirit asked. Don't be idle. Go to the treasure pavilions of the major cities in the north. As for me, I'll go to the treasure pavilion of the Holy Dragon City and have some tea. Qin Feiyong smiled. Understood. The Sunset Divine Bao's artifact spirit smiled and said, Brothers, let's go. Clang! The 6 divine artifacts immediately turned into streams of light and disappeared into the horizon. Beast Emperor, Chief Pavilion Master. Although I can't expose your identities, I have 10,000 ways to make you regret it. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, opened an altar, and disappeared without a trace. Divine Dragon Island. Somewhere. The ancestral dragons surrounded the fire-clothed youth. But at this moment, the fire-clothed youth was just a wisp of divine consciousness. Why did he want to kill you? The ancestral dragons looked at the fire-clothed youth in puzzlement. How would I know why he went crazy? The fire-clothed youth said angrily. But in his heart he was very clear. It was just that he couldn't figure out how Qin Feiyang knew. Could it be that Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang leaked the secret? But that couldn't be right. For the safety of the Dragon Slayer Palace, Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang couldn't have told Qin Feiyang what was going on. Whoosh! At this moment, Longzuan came through the air and landed in front of the group. Sir, how's the situation? The ancestral dragons quickly surrounded him. He's already gone. But there's a problem that I don't understand. Qin Feiyang said frankly that this time, he's not targeting us dragons, but the Beast Emperor. Beast Emperor, can you give me an explanation? Longzuan looked at the fire-clothed youth and asked. I don't know either. The fire-clothed youth looked aggrieved. The ancestral dragon of the Black Dragon clan asked, did you offend him in any way? Offend him? Speaking of offending him, I haven't offended him. Maybe it's because I'm in the same group as you. The fire-clothed youth was helpless. Longzuan said unhappily, from your tone, it's us who implicated you? Isn't that the case? He came to kill me all of a sudden. He must have been implicated by you. Maybe. He knows our plan. So he wants to get rid of 1 or 2 of us before the Nether King's hell opens. In this way, when he enters the Nether King's hell, he will have 1 or 2 fewer opponents, the fire-clothed youth said. He knows our plan? That's impossible. The ancestral dragons shook their heads. No. He does know. He also said that he wants to settle things with us in the Nether King's hell, Longzuan said. How did he know? Could it be Yizhong who leaked the secret? The ancestral dragons were bewildered. You guys are too imaginative. In order to deal with Qin Feiyang, Yizhong put in a lot of effort. You guys actually suspect him. If he hears this, won't he be bitterly disappointed? This kind of thing, if you think about it a little, you will know that it must have been deduced by Qin Feiyang. It's not like you guys haven't experienced Qin Feiyang's cleverness. Let's talk about it later. Isn't there still Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang secretly helping him? The fire-clothed youth rolled his eyes. What a bunch of pigs. They actually suspected Yizhong. This plan was originally planned by Yizhong. How could he do something that would harm himself and benefit others? Longzuan also stared at the ancestral dragons and said indifferently, all right, go and get ready. Yes. The ancestral dragons retreated respectfully. Longzuan looked at the fire-clothed youth and said, can you enter the Nether King's hell tomorrow? The fire-clothed youth hesitated. He had always planned to enter. But now his physical body was destroyed, and only a wisp of his divine soul was left. With his cultivation, it would be difficult to condense a complete divine soul without tens of thousands of years. Not to mention it would take a long time to reconstruct his physical body. In his current state, if he entered the Nether King's hell, he would simply be courting death. Longzuan said, don't force yourself if you can't go. I want to go in. This Qin Feiyang, I must kill him. The fire-clothed youth said in a deep voice. But you, Longzuan frowned. If he could use a spatial divine item, the fire-clothed youth could still go into seclusion to reconstruct his divine soul and physical body. But there were rules in the Nether King's hell, and there was no way to use spatial divine items. When the fire-clothed youth's divine soul entered the Nether King's hell, not to mention killing Qin Feiyang, he would not even be able to protect himself. I have an idea, the fire-clothed youth said. What idea? Longzuan was suspicious. The fire-clothed youth moved closer to Longzuan's ear and whispered a few words. When Longzuan heard this, he said in surprise, this is too risky. It's a little risky. But as long as I can kill Qin Feiyang, it's worth it. Besides, don't I have you guys to protect me? It's not a big problem. The fire-clothed youth waved his hand. I won't go. Longzuan shook his head. You won't go? The fire-clothed youth was stunned. Someone has to guard the divine land. What if we all go to the Nether King's hell in Qin Batian and the others take the opportunity to stir up trouble? Longzuan was worried. The fire-clothed youth frowned and said, Qin Batian and the others might also enter the Nether King's hell. He won't. Because I know him. He won't take the risk. Longzuan shook his head. The fire-clothed youth said, But if you don't go, I'm worried. What's there to worry about? Although your cultivation will be suppressed to the 9 heavens realm in the Nether King's hell, Qin Feiyang will also be greatly restricted. Qin Feiyang's biggest reliance is the heaven-defying divine artifact and the kill formula. And these can't be used in the Nether King's hell. Don't tell me you can't kill him with your strength? Longzuan said lightly. That's true. The fire-clothed youth nodded. Longzuan said, All right, hurry up and prepare. It's best if the target you choose is at the peak 9 heavens realm. This will give you some protection. I know. The fire-clothed youth nodded and turned into a stream of light, sweeping out of Divine Dragon Island like lightning and disappearing. Holy Dragon City. The moonlight shone. The huge city was extremely quiet. The treasure pavilion, which was closed for the day, was dead silent. Whoosh! Suddenly, a white figure descended in the sky above the treasure pavilion. It was Qin Feiyang. Glancing at the empty streets and the quiet treasure pavilion, Qin Feiyang took out a tea table and a recliner and placed it in the air. Sitting on the recliner, he took out a tea set and leisurely made tea. But this time, he didn't use the tea leaves brewed by Fire Lotus. Because Yizhong also knew about this tea. If he made this tea now, once Yizhong found out, he would definitely suspect his identity. He had only chosen a relatively ordinary type of tea. Next, he lay on the recliner, drinking tea while admiring the moonlight. Look, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why is there a person sitting in the sky above the treasure pavilion? Soon, a few passers-by noticed Qin Feiyang when they passed by the street beside the treasure pavilion. I'm not playing tricks on me. It's indeed a person. What is he doing? He's actually drinking tea in the sky above the treasure pavilion. No. Why do I feel that he looks familiar? It seems to be. It's Qin Feiyang. A few people stopped on the street with a suspicious look and looked up. When they saw Qin Feiyang's face, they couldn't help but change their expressions. That's right. It's him. Qin Feiyang, who snatched the 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts of the dragons, severely injured the ancestral dragons, and was not even afraid of Longzuan. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.